Yeah, this is case number 456 on the calendar, no matter Williams versus Kelly. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
According to your complaint, Mr. Williams, you and the defendant were co-workers. She borrowed some money from you, and this was in October of 2000. Is that right?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And she signed a promissory note, and she did not pay you back. Easy?
That is also correct.
The defendant says that because of your actions, she was fired from her job. Because of things that you said about her, she was unable to get another job, and therefore she doesn't feel as if she has to pay you back the money, and she is counterclaiming for defamation. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct, Your Honor.
The dates become very interesting here. The loan was made what date in October, sir?
October 20th, 2000.
And what did you need the money for?
I needed the money to pay a mortgage payment.
And what was the principal amount on the loan?
$1,500.
Do you have the promissory note?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please? And you did sign this promissory note. You
Yes,
signed
I
it
did.
on the 20th of October.
Yes.
Did you make the first payment on October the 30th, as it was agreed to in this note?
No, I did not.
Why not?
I was fired. I was sexually assaulted by Mr. Williams, who pressed his private parts on my behind.
When?
This was a month before I had gotten fired, and Mr. Williams believed
what date?
that...
No, just a second. I'm asking you the date. You indicate that you were, according to you, sexually harassed by Mr. Williams.
September 2000.
Well, that's why the dates become important. So that if you were sexually harassed by Mr. Williams in September of 2000, how could you borrow money from him a month later and promise to pay him, start to pay him within 10 days?
I loaned Mr. Williams $3,000 around March of 2000.
Yes.
I did not ask Mr. Williams to sign any promissory note. I just simply gave Mr. Williams the money. I had to hound him for 6 months to give me my money back. But when I needed money, Mr. Williams asked me to sign a promissory note. So, and I felt hurt. I felt hurt because originally I thought we were friends, but I found out differently. Anyway, what I was saying, I was in a very bad bind, and I needed money. And I borrowed it from Mr. Williams because I loaned him money, so I felt like he should give me money.
Well, when you signed this promissory note, Miss Kelly,
yes,
did you have intentions of paying him
Yes,
back?
I had intentions. Oh, I'm sorry.
The answer was yes.
Yes.
So that what happened between October 20th, when you signed this note, and October the 30th?
As I said, Mr. Williams had wind of me gathering evidence against him for sexually harassing me and other harassments. Ever since he got
what happened between
he got me
in
fired.
That 10 days?
He lied.
On what
he lied
date,
to his superiors and got me fired.
On what date were you fired?
I was fired October the 30th.
Miss Kelly, the reason I asked questions about the dates was because it seems odd that you would borrow money from someone who you claim a month before had sexually abused you. Would seem to me you would want to stay as far away from that person as possible.
I could not. We worked in the same small cubicles, in the same location.
Then you certainly don't want to have anything other than a business relationship while you were, quote, gathering evidence against him.
To me, that was still business, Your Honor, because I really was in need of taking care of my personal business.
Then you have to pay him back. Period. End of discussion.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Why do you think that you are entitled not to pay him back?
I lost many of wages after I lost that job. Mr. Williams lied to his superiors and said I took someone else's check because he knew I was about to let his superiors know of his assault on me. I have documents that I went to Equal Opportunity and I made accusations, and I was given a claim. I was given a settlement from the organization that I worked with, showing that he sexually assaulted me. Mr. Williams was the supervisor after I left there.
I'm speaking. Don't interrupt me. It still doesn't forgive you from paying back a loan.
I didn't have a job. I had no job.
Well, it doesn't make any difference. You have to pay him back this money. And if you got a settlement, then you have to pay him back the money from the settlement. Period. End of discussion. You signed a note.
No, but excuse me.
I'm telling you
may I say
yes.
something?
I'm reading your complaint.
I have a letter from a lady that worked there.
Listen, I don't read letters. Miss Kelly,
She
I want to
sent it
see...
the equal opportunity, stating
to,
his assault on me.
Did you hear what I said? I don't read letters. I want to see the result. This is the complaint that you just gave me, that you filed. I want to see the order that they handed down. Do you have a copy of the order that they handed?
No, I have a copy of the check that they settled with me for.
They settled with you for it.
And that was a whole year later when my bills were...
Just a second. You mean you don't have a copy of the decision? There was never a decision?
I was released from unemployment.
Would you answer my questions?
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
You had to sign certain documents, Miss Kelly.
Yes, I did.
When you received this check. Let me see a copy of the documents you received.
I don't have a document with me, Your Honor.
All right. Now,
Of that,
just 1 second.
I have a letter I presented to them during that time.
I'm not interested in your letter. I'm interested in their decision.
They had me sign a document releasing me from prosecuting any further.
That's correct. That's what they did.
Yes.
Of course. That's what I wanted to see. That's what I wanted to see.
I'm sorry, I didn't bring that letter with me, Your
Well,
Honor.
you should have, because you have a counterclaim against them for defamation. The first thing you say here is that you have a condition of torn cartilage, which may be considered a disability under the New York State human rights laws, and I am a female. Then you say on October 24th, which is 4 days after you borrowed this money, you submitted your request for sick leave related to your torn cartilage, right? Then you go on to say that the reason you were terminated was because of your disability and my sex, having complained of sexual harassment. Why these people settle these claims? It's absolutely ridiculous. You also say here that by mistake I took somebody else's pay and you returned it. It was a mistake, you say, that you took it.
And it wasn't a pay, it was a stub.
A stub. Whatever it was. You signed a release, you don't get any money on your counterclaim, you have to pay them the money that you borrowed. You borrowed $1,500. There's also late fees imposed pursuant to this thing.
Wait a minute.
$25.
May I say something, Judge? I know I'm nervous, but may I state something, please?
You're not nervous, Miss Kelly.
Yes, I am, Judge.
No, you're not nervous.
There
You're just
was
trying to
a statement. I'm not lying, Judge. Mr. Williams is a supervisor at the company I was working at. I have been seeking employment. I have an impressive resume that I've gone for several interviews for over the last year, and they have to ask him for references, character references. I have not been able to get a job since I left that employ because they have to get references from Mr. Williams, who sabotaged me since then.
Miss Kelly, I can make a similar argument that the reason that you cannot get employment anywhere else is because you filed a claim based on the fact that you suffer from a disability, which I'm speaking, don't interrupt me. I'm really very smart. You say you were fired because you have torn cartilage, which you believe falls within the purview of the Americans Disability Act, and therefore you were fired.
Excuse me,
I'm speaking. That's exactly what you say here.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Melvin Williams says former co-worker Jackie Kelly owes for an unpaid loan to pay her mortgage. Jackie claims Melvin sexually assaulted her and then got her fired. She says she's not going to pay.
It's exactly what you said here.
Judge,
you said.
Can I say something?
You say. I'm speaking. I believe the real reason for my termination of my. I'm speaking. I can't hear you. For terminating my employment is because of my disability and my sex, and having complained of sexual harassment. Those are your words.
I was the only woman at the job. My knee went out that month.
Listen to me, madam.
I was going on disability for that month.
Miss Kelly,
before that month, I was not injured, Your Honor.
Listen, I'm going to let you speak in a minute, sir.
I was not injured. There was nothing wrong with me.
Listen to me very carefully, madam. You're not listening to me. If I am an employer and I find out that someone has sued a prior company in part because they say they suffer from a disability that they categorize as I am, which is what you say, have a condition, torn cartilage, which may be considered a disability under the New York State human rights law.
I have a letter here from the doctor. I went for surgery on the 17th of November of 2000. I did not have a disability until then. That's when I was requesting a disability.
Did you?
I did not have the disability yet. I was going for surgery for that, and that's when I went out. But after I was already fired before that even took place.
This
I
complaint
stated that
is
to
in
the
your
equal
file,
opportunity.
Miss Kelly.
There's a letter stating that there was a lady that was a witness to the fact that Mr. Williams sexually harassed me.
Pay careful attention. I have zero sympathy for you because you borrowed money from him after
He borrowed $3,000 before that.
After you say he sexually harassed you. I have zero sympathy for that. If you say he sexually harassed you and you were compiling evidence against him,
I was.
we go forward again.
I was compiling evidence.
Hey, who do you think you're joking with? You're joking with me. You're joking with me that you don't borrow money from him and sign a promissory note that you have no intention of paying back. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,525 pursuant to your complaint, sir. Do you understand?
Yes, I do, Your
You're
Honor.
getting back your money. Your counterclaim is dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's lied and defamed my character over the last year, and I really think it stinks.
The main reason she got fired because she opened up somebody's paycheck and she wanted to lie about it. And then she wanted me to cover for her.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Adams versus Canham. Step forward, please.
18-year-old student Jennifer Adams is suing her former classmate, 17-year-old student Christy Canham, for breaking her ankle during a fight.
Miss Adams, according to your complaint, the defendant assaulted you, you were injured, you want to be compensated. That's what the case is about. How do you know her?
We went to grammar school and the high school together.
Where did this assault take place?
At Annie's house.
At this young lady's house?
Yeah.
When?
October 2nd, 2001.
What was the dispute about?
The dispute was over a CD, but there's more to it. In August of this year, we had a get-together also at Annie's house, where everybody had gone in the house except for Christy and my fiance. And after everyone was inside, she said something to the extent of, fiance or not, I've had guys cheat on their girlfriends with me before. So he came in the house and he told me about it and didn't do anything about it at that time. We all went to bed and we hadn't seen each other really during this time from August to October when the incident happened. My CDs had been left at the restaurant where she works, and somebody had gone through them.
You went to the restaurant where she works?
No.
Who left the CDs at the restaurant where she works?
Her little brother had my CDs, left them at the restaurant. Somebody went through them and took out a whole bunch of CDs, but she took one and took it to Hawaii with her.
So she had one of your CDs?
Yes.
Okay.
So I went out to Annie's on October 2nd.
What did you go to Annie's for?
Because we're friends.
Was she expecting you?
It was just we go out there all the time. Nobody expects anyone.
The defendant was there?
Yes.
Did you know the defendant was going to be
No.
there? So when you walked into the house, who was present?
Annie, Jimmy, and Stephanie.
Who's Stephanie?
And she's another friend of ours.
And the defendant?
Yes.
What happened when you got there?
When I got there, I walked in the door. Christy was standing on the opposite side of the room. I asked her where my CD was. She just kind of stood there looking at me. And I said, you heard me, where is my CD? She said, at my house. And I said, well, you better get it. And she asked why I was yelling at her. I said, because I didn't like her anyways, and her stealing my CD was the last straw. She asked me why I didn't like her. There was more arguing during this time, but when I said that I didn't like her, I said it was because she was a scandalous. And I went to walk into the kitchen, and I turned my back. She was sitting in a chair.
So she was sitting?
Yes, she was sitting. By this time, she was sitting.
Shh. Was she sitting at the time that you came in and started calling her names?
No.
She was standing?
Yes.
But then she sat down?
Yes.
Okay, so you're walking into another room, she's sitting?
Yes.
What happened next?
So I went to walk into the kitchen. I saw her out of the corner of my eye come at me. So I turned around. She went to hit me. I blocked her hit, put her in a headlock. So I had her in a headlock, and she was hitting me, and I was hitting her. She couldn't get away from me, so she turned me sideways, pushed me to the ground, snapping my ankle in 2 places. And Annie came over and pulled her off of me. When she did, Christy kicked me while I was on the ground. And then Annie helped me up. I walked into their computer room because that's where Stephanie was. It was about 10 feet. And Annie came in to see if I was all right, and I said, no, you need to take me to the emergency room. I can't walk. Jimmy came and picked me up and carried me to the car. While he was carrying me to the car, she was standing on the steps of the front of their house, yelling, you stupid, get back here, I'm going to kick your ass. I couldn't even stand. So Jimmy puts me in the car, and we're going to the emergency room. I told Annie, I said, she hit me first. Annie goes, I know, but she's only 17.
She didn't hit you first. It's not what you just told me. It's not what you just told me at all. You said she went to hit you, and you grabbed her and put her in a headlock.
She went to hit me, and I blocked her hit. She was still coming at me, and that's why I put her in a headlock. That's not what you said to me. You said, according to you, she went to hit you, you blocked her, and put her in a headlock. That's what you just told me. And I put her in a headlock because she was still coming at me. And we were
And what did
hitting
you
each
do
other.
when you put her in a headlock?
She was hitting me, and I was hitting her.
So you had a fight?
Yes.
And you got the worst of it?
Not. She pushed me to the ground and busted my ankle.
She pushed you to the ground during the course of a fight that you started.
She came at me.
She pushed you to the ground during the course of a fight that you started.
I was walking away from the situation, and she came at me from
After you had
behind.
started it.
So
if you were going to testify, is that what you would testify to? Exactly what she said? Huh?
Yes.
Perfect. Somebody's going to always get the worst of a fight. Isn't that right, Bird?
It's usually how it happens, Judge.
Usually how it happens. This time you got the worst of the fight. You walked into your friend's house and created a scene, and you didn't get any response from her the first time. You said to her, give me the blank CD. Give me the blank CD. Then, clearly, according to you, I'm not even going to her. According to you, she was standing, but then she sat down. And then you continued to call her names.
We were yelling at each other.
She didn't start yelling at you. You walked in and immediately, according to you, started to call her foul names. Right?
Yeah.
So you got a broken ankle? Huh? You got a broken ankle during the course of the fight?
Yes.
That's what happens. Suck it up. That's all.
All these are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
All parties on Punterero versus Peach. Step forward, please.
22-year-old student Corinne Punterero is suing her ex-roommate, 22-year-old student Rebecca Peach, for breaking a lease. Rebecca says she moved out because she needed gallbladder surgery.
Ms. Pontuero, according to your complaint, you and the defendant know each other from college, and you had decided to room together for this coming year.
Yes.
When did you sign the lease?
Last year.
What month?
I believe it was in April.
And at some time, about a month later, the defendant decided that she did not want to live with you, and you've had to move into this rental by yourself. You want her to pay her share of the year's rent.
Yes, it's a 3-bedroom apartment. There's me and one other housemate. And with her not living there, we're responsible for her rent. Our landlord is now taking us to court for her part of the rent. In the lease, it says that no matter what, you're jointly and severely responsible for fulfillment of the lease.
Severally, not severely, severally. Let me have the lease, please.
I have this from both years.
Okay. When did you change your mind?
I actually have an email I've written to Corinne. It's dated June 12th that states that I won't be coming
It's dated what?
back. June 12th.
Okay, you changed your mind June 12th.
It wasn't so much changing my mind. I was very ill. Corinne and I were disagreeing. It was not a very good living environment for myself. And I have doctors, notes, everything. It was impossible for me to come back to school.
So then what did you do to try to get a new roommate?
With me being sick, it was hard.
What were you sick with?
I had my gallbladder taken out 2 years ago. I I vomit a lot. I throw up a lot. That's why I had written her the email to let her know that I won't be back, that I'm going to need help with this.
Let me see the email.
I have it highlighted of where I said I wasn't going to be back.
You were all supposed to move in on the end of August. Is that right?
Yeah.
And according to this lease, the landlord wanted payments for the rent in two parts, $4,000 in the beginning of one semester, and then in the spring semester, another $4,000. The spring semester doesn't start until when? February, March?
January.
January. And what you're suing her for is really 1/3 of the entire lease. Is that right?
Yes.
I don't know about this vacuum cleaner and television set.
Your Honor, I also have an email dated June 12th also. She never said anything about being sick. She never gave me that reason.
We were fighting. I didn't feel the reason. I need to explain myself.
Well, it's a rather nasty email, and it seems to me a lot of other things going on other than just your former gallbladder condition, Ms. Peach. You had an obligation to try to locate a third roommate to take over your obligation under the lease.
I understand that.
You have an obligation to what they call ameliorate your damages, which means you too have to make an effort to locate a third roommate.
We posted these all around campus, and usually when everybody looks for an apartment, you sign a lease well ahead of time. Right now, everybody in school already has signed leases for their living arrangements next year. So finding a roommate now is next to impossible because everybody already has their apartments.
Well, at this point, yes, but probably not in June, and certainly not for the spring semester.
Well, we've been looking. We found
because
somebody...
situations change, so there is no way that I'm going to grant you an award for the entire amount of the rent that's due and owing, because the spring semester is a whole different scenario. Having had kids in school, I know that after a few months in college, situations change. And kids say, I don't like living with you, and I don't like living with you. I'm going to look for a new roommate. You make new friends, so you can find yourself in a position of filling up that third bedroom, which I'm sure you use now occasionally anyway. You have visitors come up and they use that room?
Actually, it's pretty empty.
That's not what I asked you. I said, do you sometimes have visitors, friends come up and use that room? Parents, anybody
Not that
else?
room, no.
They don't use that room. It just stands as a shrine to the defendant. What's next?
If I may interject for a second.
Sure.
The TV we had bought together, I had left her half the money for it when I moved out in the summertime. And the vacuum cleaner, I don't remember us having one second semester because our first semester housemate took it with her. We didn't have a vacuum the second semester.
Well, that's what some of the other things she's suing for, a vacuum cleaner and a television set.
I had gotten a phone call from the Fredonia Police Department about me stealing a television and a vacuum cleaner. Now, when I went up to school, I made sure nobody was there. I took all of my stuff out, left her half the money for the TV we bought together, which was $60.
And did you take the TV?
And I took the TV with me. And I did not take the vacuum. I'm living at home. I don't need the vacuum cleaner.
At the time, I didn't know she had left the money because my other housemate had set it aside for me, but she wasn't home. So I went to the police department and I filled out this report, and I find it hard to believe that the TV and all her stuff would be gone, along with the vacuum cleaner.
Well,
but
she says she took the TV, but she left you money, which you acknowledge because your roommate had the money.
Yeah, she
and
took
just
the money.
didn't tell you, so you included the TV in the police report that you filed against her, and the TV should not have been included in that police report.
Well, she says that we bought the TV together, and we did not. I bought it on my credit card, and I have the receipt here if you want.
We split that.
Well, it's very possible you put it on your... I'm not going to get involved with $60 for a television
That's fine
set.
too, but I did not take a vacuum cleaner.
There's no proof that you took the vacuum cleaner. What's next?
Well, I have all the copies of the bills from last semester. That some of them we still owe, some of them are in her name, some of them are in mine.
I just got a $617 phone bill in my name, which shouldn't, I don't know why it's still in my name, but I just received this phone bill from the phone company.
Let me see. Why don't you, Bert, instead of my looking at them, why don't you have them exchange these bills and look at them?
Your Honor, I acknowledge these bills.
Good.
What I want to say is that I never received them to pay them.
Okay, so there are $624.17 in bills that she says that you owe from last semester, and you got a phone bill for $600.
And $17, yes.
Right?
Actually, all these numbers are her numbers They're all in Long Island. They're all West Palm Beach.
There's Buffalo in there, Williamsville from her town. So
Well, I will be glad to go through them and find out which ones are mine, but the vast majority of them are from hers.
Let me see. You expect me to go through all these charges?
No.
Good. Then step outside. Call you back in 5 minutes. Here, Bird, send them outside, please. Thank you. Okay, so who was Talkie Sally?
Well, I went over the long-distance bills, highlighted what I owe, everything from the Buffalo and Buffalo area, and I owe $9.30.
Is that right?
I guess so. I didn't really look at it.
What do you
She
mean
had
you
it.
really
She had the
look?
calculator. I was.
All right, so let me see the entire phone bill, please. All right, Miss Peach.
Yes.
So from your phone bill of $617, the plaintiff owes you $9.30.
That's fine.
So it's a good lesson. Miss Peach, your lesson is as follows. How old are you?
22.
If you're 22, you're an adult. When you're an adult and you enter into a contract, you are obligated to fulfill your contract. You're no longer a kid. But you have an obligation, too, to reduce your damages. You can't sit there with a 3-bedroom apartment and say, well, now I have a bedroom for myself, a bedroom for my roommate, and I got a whole area for storage. Don't play with paper when I'm talking to you. It's rude. So I believe that you are entitled to this semester's portion of her rent for the fall semester, because I agree with you that it could have been difficult in June to try to find a new roommate. That doesn't mean that I believe that you can't find somebody else for the spring semester. Now, that doesn't mean that you necessarily don't have a cause of action against her if, in the spring semester, after a good faith effort to locate another roommate, you're not able to locate another roommate. This award will cover this semester's rent, clear, plus your utility bills from last year. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,948. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Luster versus Fair, step forward.
22-year-old makeup artist Kelly Luster is suing her ex-boyfriend, 33-year-old general contractor Herbert Fair, for unpaid credit card charges and for the balance of a computer.
Ms. Luster, according to your complaint, the defendant is your former boyfriend.
Correct.
And there was a time when you allowed him to make purchases on a credit card.
Correct.
When you broke up, you put a stop on that credit card and said that you no longer wanted him to be able to make purchases on it. And the next day or something, he made $677 worth of payments on the credit card. You say that there have been no payments on that amount, and you want him to pay you that amount because you're not together anymore, and you don't want to be bothered with him and come chasing him, and the bank is looking for you, and it affects your credit.
Correct.
In addition, you allowed him to purchase a computer on your credit card.
We opened up a gateway account, and it was under my name because I had good credit. And we paid the payments together. We lived together for about 3 years, and the payments were fine. We paid them together. And as soon as we broke up, I was paying the payments, and the computer remained at his house.
He agrees that he put that money on the credit card, $677.
I do.
And what's left on the computer is what?
The amount is $1,357.88.
Now, Mr. Fair says he did pay for a substantial amount of the computer, and he does acknowledge that there is an additional amount owing on the computer. His defense is that he made some sort of a loan for some plastic surgery that you had.
It doesn't matter what the loan was, Your Honor. I just basically...
He loaned me money.
I lent her money.
Well, that's what you say in your answer.
Doesn't
so you
matter
want
what
to tell
it
me
is.
about this loan that you say negates the $677, as well as the $1,357 that's left on the computer that is in your possession.
This is true.
Well, tell me.
Well,
What
basically,
loan did you make her?
I gave her a loan. It doesn't really matter what it was. I mean, I was with her for 3.5 years, and I was basically, putting her through school and doing some things, for her. And basically, I felt that I didn't have to make the payments no more on the computer because of so much money that I had invested into this relationship as well.
Your Honor, I paid him back the loan that he he gave to me. So that has nothing to do with the computer. I paid him back every single dime that he lent me. So it has nothing.
Did you?
Yes.
But she was supposed to pay me back, but she didn't pay me back on time.
But I still paid him back. He was still paid back. I mean,
How much did you borrow from him?
I borrowed $3,000 from him, and he was paid back every single dime. He
that
wasn't
correct,
paid
sir?
back exactly.
I was paid
the
it back, yeah, but not the time that I was told that I was going to be paid back.
Were you paid back before you broke up?
Yes.
Yes.
So it wasn't an issue.
Yes, I don't even know why he's even bringing that up. I think he's just using that because he knows that he owes me for these things.
So what is your defense, sir? I don't know what your defense is, Mr. Fair. If that's
Well,
not your
basically,
defense.
I mean, like I said, you know, 3.5 years of being into this relationship with her and stuff, and I took care of her basically for 3.5 years. I felt that I didn't need to pay these both bills, and these are basically it between her and I. So.
As you can see why I don't want to be with him any longer. I paid him back every single dime that...
He says that you paid him back.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with the money that he owes me. And he knows that he owes me this money, and he's just trying to make excuses and make up stupid things. I even have proof. I have the bills, if you want to see them.
He doesn't deny the bills, Miss Lester. He doesn't deny the bills, and he doesn't have a defense. So judgment
never
is
does.
Judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,034.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Zach, excuse you may step out. Now this is case number 256 on the calendar in the matter of Lemke versus Mungo. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Ms. Lemke, the defendant was a former boyfriend of yours. According to your complaint, he owes you for 3 things. He owes you for money that you loaned to him at one point when he was facing incarceration. He owes you for the value of a car, which you say you purchased, although it was in his name, it was supposed to be your car, and that he owes you for damages as a result of an assault that took place over a year ago. Is that right?
That's correct.
I assume that the loan that kept him out of jail was the first money that you're suing for. Is that right?
Yes.
And tell me the circumstances surrounding that loan.
John was, faced going to jail for child support arrearages, and the day that he was to appear in court, we took the bus up together, and then I overheard his, discussion with the DA, and that he needed $750 to take him, him out of jail, and we agreed that I would, loan him the money and that he would repay me when he was able to.
Well, how did that come about? What did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
Well, what I said to him was that I had $750. Just don't worry about it. You can repay me, when you're able to. I have $400 cash in my wallet, and we can go down to an ATM.
Tell me about, sir, your version of the $750, which you acknowledge that the plaintiff paid in order to keep you out of jail.
The $750, Lynn had offered to give me $700.
Tell me how it came about.
Oh, I was trying to do that.
No,
before we went to court, several days before she...
Look at me.
Yes, ma'am. She volunteered, said, I could give you some money to stay out. And I said, absolutely not. I don't want to do it because I would feel obligated. So a few days went by, and I was supposed to turn myself in. So we went, and then when we got into out in the hallway, the public defender said, well, do you have the money? I said, no, I don't. Lynn says, I have it. And he said, well, are you going to use it? I said, absolutely not. I don't want to, because I feel like I'm obligated. I cannot pay her back. And then she said, he said, well, do it. I said, no. So he left. And then he came back again and said, why don't you do it? And I said, well, and we thought about it. And I said, he convinced me to do it. I paid it, and then we went home, and that was it.
So it's not your fault, and it's not her fault. It's the public defender's fault.
No, she offered this money to me in front of Mr. Coleman here.
Just a second, but you said
yes.
that you declined to take it.
Yes, I did.
Because you would have felt obligated to repay it.
Yes.
And then you said that the district attorney or the public defender forced you to do it.
He did not force me. He coerced me into it.
He coaxed you to do it. And you did it.
Yes.
And I assume, therefore, that your initial reason for not wanting to take the money in the first place still held true, that you would have felt obligated to repay it. That's what you just told me.
That's correct.
So you took the money, and I assume you still felt obligated to repay it.
I did.
Well, then I'm asking you that. What happened, sir, between the time you walked into the courthouse, when you would have felt obligated to repay the money if the plaintiff gave you the money, and the time you actually took the money?
She told me it was a gift, and I would not have to pay her.
That is...
Absolutely.
No.
Well, Mr. Coleman
she
here
say...
heard her say it in his house.
Just a second, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
She never used the words gift. This is a gift that I'm making to you,
yes,
John.
Yes, she did.
No. She never did.
Well, that's not what she's telling you.
That's not what I believe.
Oh.
I wouldn't believe it if you told me, because I don't know if I'd believe anything you told me. I certainly wouldn't believe it if he told to me. I'm telling you, she didn't give you the money. She may have said to you, I want you to take it, and you can pay me back when you can.
Yes.
That she might have said. All right, let's move on to number 2. Let's move on to car. How much did you purchase this car for?
$625.
$625. So it wasn't a Jaguar.
No.
And it wasn't a brand new car.
Absolutely not.
And you had no driver's license.
That's correct.
So you purchased the car and you put the car in his name.
Not at the time of purchase, but yes, eventually.
When did you purchase the car?
June 29th.
What were you going to do with a car that you couldn't drive?
Well, I had wanted a car for a long time, as
just to look at it?
Friends had known. Of course not.
Well, what were you going to do with it?
Have other people drive it for me so that I could get around until I have a driver's license.
So you must have discussed with him driving you around.
No, not necessarily Mr. Mungo. My roommate, John Coleman.
Oh.
And no decision had been made whether it even be either one of these persons, people.
Whatever. You put the car ultimately in his name. Tell me when.
It was in July.
So you went down to Motor Vehicles and put the car, after you had it for some time, in the defendant's name.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Mungo, according to you, there came a time when plaintiff came to reside with you in your home. Is that right?
Yes.
When was that?
Let me see here. I have the date right here. It's on the bill of sale that we used, a copy of the bill of sale that we used for the transfer of the automobile, which was dated 7/18/2000.
That's when she came to live with you?
Yes, came to stay with me.
How long did she stay with you?
2 months and 5 days.
And according to you, Mr. Mungo, your arrangement was that she could live with you rent-free and give you the car.
Correct.
Miss Lemke, did you pay any rent? Miss Lemke, pay attention.
No, I did not, and I do not remember that document at all.
Should look at me. Could you look at me?
Oh, I beg your pardon.
And was it about the time you went to live with him because you had problems with your old roommate? That's why you moved out.
He locked me out of the house.
Your old roommate locked you out of the house?
Yes.
And you went to live with Mr. Mungo. And at the same time that you went to live with Mr. Mungo, was that the time you went down to Motor Vehicles and transferred the title to the car to his name? That's what he says.
No, when I went to live with Mr. Mungo, I was only going there for some place to sleep the night I was locked out.
But you stayed for 2 months.
That's correct, and I contracted bronchitis, had severe pneumonia in
all the time
August.
You were in Mr. Mungo's house?
Yes, I was.
And you did not pay any rent?
While I was taking care of him.
Shh. You did not pay any rent?
No, but I bought food and whatever, yeah.
You did
no,
not pay
I
any...
paid no rent, no.
Oh, okay. And he took care of you when you were sick?
No.
Who took care of you?
I took care of myself.
Okay. Let's get to item number 3. Tell me about this alleged assault. When did it take place?
September 11th.
What happened on September 11th?
I mentioned something about the car, which the subject I would avoid because of his fiery temper whenever the subject came up. There'd been a lot of verbal abuse.
So you started to talk about the car. He didn't want to talk about the car.
He ran from the back of his house in a fiery rage and punched me as a boxer's punch right here.
Also claims John charged her in a fiery rage and punched her.
You have a police report.
The police said that a police report could not be issued.
Police issue a police report when there's an assault. Do you have any photographs of your injuries as a result of the assault?
Yes, I do.
Can I see them, please?
That was a couple weeks later. This is about 5 weeks later. 6, maybe.
Okay, let me hear your version of what happened on this date on September 11th.
Well, Miss Lemke is an alcoholic, and she was drinking 24/7 every day for 2 months. her idea of being sick
For the 2 months that she was living with you?
Yes. Her idea of being sick with bronchitis is drinking a 1.7 liter of Jack Daniels and barfing all over the place. I had my son at my house. He was, I believe, 3 years old, and she was told when he's around and you're drinking, please do not talk to him and leave him alone. We were in the bathroom, and she came in and she grabbed me by the arms. She was shaking me and screaming at me, and I could see the fillings in her teeth. And I broke loose from her, and I went outside. And before I went outside, my little boy was hitting her on the leg like this, saying, stop. He could see that there was this anger, and it was getting him upset. So we went outside, and my little boy kept trying to protect me, and then she went to grab him, and as she grabbed him, he kind of turned upside down, and she spiraled down into the brick fence, and he kind of kicked her in the face. And
oh my God, that's an outright lie.
Basically, I just was horrified. I said, "Oh, you've got to go." I didn't want her to be there anymore. And she kept wondering...
I don't know why she was there in the first place, sir.
She was there because she was so combative with John, he couldn't have her living at his house anymore, and he locked her out.
So she had other places to go. She could rent a room someplace. Go to why?
She could.
So why was she living with you, sir? You tell me she's an alcoholic. You had
I
your
wanted my car back.
I think she was crazy mad in love with me, to tell you the truth.
Well,
we were having a torrid love affair.
You were having a torrid love affair
at times
with somebody who you say was a complete alcoholic? When you have a torrid love affair with someone who is blind on Jack Daniels for 2 straight months.
How?
Yeah.
It's not hard.
Not for you, maybe. Not for you, maybe. Okay. What happened as a result of this assault? Were you ever contacted by the police?
Police, well, when after this happened, I picked, my son was supposed to go home to his mother. I spent the night over there. I didn't want to come back home. And apparently the police came out, and the policeman said, I think, ma'am, you must have fallen off the porch and hurt yourself.
Don't tell me what the police said to her.
Well, he was there to hear it.
This is unbelievable.
Okay. Hearsay?
Hearsay.
Oh,
This
okay.
is.
Okay. Oh yes.
You're despicable.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Quite frankly, Miss Lemke, if someone had assaulted me, causing this kind of injury,
yes,
then there would have been a police report. There would have been a police prosecution for domestic violence.
Mm-hmm. 2 weeks later, I went to jail for domestic violence, Your Honor.
And I cannot understand, madam, why you would not follow up on this case that happened over a year ago. Why?
I've been sick for months.
Okay, you're going to get your $750 bail money back. You are not going to get your car back because I do believe Mr. Mungo, and believe me, it was a real stretch because it's hard to believe him about a lot of things. I do believe that he agreed to have you live there rent-free in exchange for this $625 car that you had put in his name anyway. As far as your request for damages with regard to the assault, I am not quite sure how this happened. And it is quite possible that you were, in fact, intoxicated at the time, and you're not sure how it happened either. So this is the judgment of the court. You keep the car, and you give her $750 for the bail money. You got me? Good. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Lady Smirnoff?
Well, he bought alcohol for me.
I think she's still in love with me, and she just wants to have some type of contact.
In fact, he had stated he liked me better drunk than sober because he wanted anything from me.
Yeah, this is case number 270 on the calendar in the matter of Levin versus Richter.
Thanks, Bert.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Levin, according to your complaint, you rented a room from the defendant. You were there for a relatively short period of time. You claim you left as a result of her constant harassment, both sexual harassment and otherwise, and you are seeking a substantial amount of money for that harassment and the stress that she caused you, in addition to the return of your security deposit, which I believe was $200. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Ms. Richter says that you were the source of the irritation in the household, that you caused her a great deal of stress and aggravation, that you left your room in miserable condition when you left, and you also left owing some bills. So she is counterclaiming. Is that right, Ms. Richter?
Yes, that's right.
All right. Mr. Levin, how did you find this room in the defendant's home?
It was advertised in a local newspaper.
Did you have a job? that time close by to where the defendant was living?
I've been disabled. I'm a physician, general practice. I've been disabled since 1995 due to what has turned into 7 neck operations.
Do you have a private house?
I have a mobile home.
So the room that you were renting was in a mobile home?
It's a mobile home park, and I had a small room in that home, yes.
How much was the monthly rent?
$400.
When did you move in?
It was July 20th, I believe.
Of this year?
Of this year, yes.
And when did you move out?
I moved out several times because I was hospitalized several times during the month and a half or so that I was there. But I moved my things out September 2nd and 3rd.
So far, are those dates correct?
No, none of them.
Okay, when did he move in?
He brought his things over 2 days before the 1st.
Of what?
Of July. And he moved in the day before the 1st of July. And he moved out on the 4th of September.
Okay. Did he pay July's rent?
He paid July's rent,
$400,
yes.
And he gave you a security deposit, is that correct?
He gave me,
$200.
He gave me $200 security deposit.
Okay. And did he pay August's rent?
He paid August's rent and then canceled the checks.
Is that correct, sir?
The whole thing is...
Is that correct, sir?
No, it is not.
Did you pay for the month of August?
Yes, and I did. And I also paid $200 for food.
Don't tell me food.
Prior to
no
that.
food. Rent. Did you give her $400 in August?
Yes.
1st of August for rent. You have that canceled check.
I
assume
don't.
You do.
I have the canceled checks.
I'll see it, please. Okay. Mr. Levin, what caused you to move out of the house?
Your Honor, I moved into the home initially because of my disability. I've had chronic pain, and I've also developed an illness called polyneuropathy, where my feet are like on fire all the time, and I needed help. The arrangement was Ms. Richter would make food, make lunches for me daily.
Ms. Richter, don't play with your papers. Listen carefully to what he's saying.
I'm listening.
And she would make dinner for me. And I paid extra $200 for that. And that was the understanding. At these meals, she would talk constantly, and it became evident to me that I was almost being used as a mate in this home.
As a mate?
As a mate. And I was being talked to as if I was her partner. And then what happened that made me move out was that she began to look at my body, and she looked at my legs at one point, and then she says, "You have really nice legs." I wear shorts all the time. And at that point, I was very disgusted. I'm not interested in a 72-year-old woman in that way. I'm a physician and a professional person. So I realized at that time I better not have meals with her. I didn't want to listen to her talk as if I was her mate. I didn't want her looking at my body.
What would she say, sir, that suggested to you she was talking as if you were her mate?
Well, I would have to listen to all of her history of where she lived and what all the people that she knew and where she worked and the different stores that she owned, and look at the pictures of her in her stores and get to know all about her. And then when I didn't know...
That doesn't sound like a mate. I don't even talk to my mate. What over meals?
Well, when I didn't...
You have a newspaper. What are newspapers for?
When I didn't know enough, I was told, you don't know anything about me. At any rate...
Have you ever been married, sir?
Yes, I have, ma'am.
How long were you married?
I was married for 14 years.
And you talked to your wife over dinner like that?
I talked to my wife and children at dinner.
Over dinner, like that? You know, a whole bunch of stories and pictures and history? No, you don't.
Well,
she was a friend. I mean, I don't understand why you...
No, there was more, because I was not interested in listening to her talk about herself constantly.
What did she think she should be talking about?
I didn't even want to talk. I wanted to have my food and...
In peace.
And peace, which is guaranteed as part of a... when you rent a room, you're guaranteed peace of mind. That's part of the rental agreement.
Dr. Levin, when you rent a room from someone in a mobile home, you're not in Graceland. It's sort of a confined space. So it would seem to me if she made you dinner, she would make herself dinner at the same time and sit down and eat with you.
But, Your Honor, that wasn't the plan.
That wasn't the plan in your mind. The plan in your mind was she would prepare meals, leave them, and leave you alone to eat. If that's what the sexual harassment part of your claim is.
No, it isn't, Your Honor. The harassment was when she started looking at my body in the kitchen and looking at my legs and saying, you have kind of nice legs. And that was to me, very demeaning.
You have nice legs?
That's not for me to comment on. I'm sorry.
Well, if somebody told me I had nice legs, I wouldn't consider that sexual harassment, sir.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Richard Levin says ex-roommate 72-year-old Margot Richter won't return his security deposit. Margot says Richard was impossible to live with.
All right, let's go. I don't think much of this harassment, sexual harassment. Let's move on to what you want. You want your security deposit back?
I was injured by this woman in a number of ways beyond wanting the security deposit.
So tell me the rest.
I opened up to her emotionally as if I was a confidant. I could talk to her. I thought she was a friend. I'd suffered from depression throughout my life and had a problem with my father. And she makes a statement to me after I stopped having meals there. She makes a statement, oh, I know why your father hated you. You're a horrible person. To me, that was really an upsetting comment. I was also told, I hope you choke to death on that sandwich that you're eating. And I didn't exactly need that kind of comment either when I'm in chronic pain and having a lot of medical problems. I was given...
You really didn't have...
I would like to
Ms.
finish.
Richter, don't speak to him.
There was a restraining order that I couldn't come within 10 feet of the woman, which meant I couldn't use the kitchen. So no longer could I have food made, or I couldn't even try to make it for myself. I had to eat out of the back of my pickup truck, out of a cooler, for 2 weeks. I was also assaulted physically by the woman.
Tell me how you were assaulted physically, because you mentioned that, but you don't really talk about it in your complaint.
I was trying to get some butter to put on some oatmeal from the refrigerator, and she has...
Was that before or after the restraining order?
This was before.
Go ahead.
I opened the refrigerator. She has a thing about not keeping the refrigerator open more than 2 seconds. This was maybe 3 seconds. I reach for the butter. She grabs my wrist, shoves me out of the way, and I'm unable to walk, and my feet are extremely painful.
What a lie.
And I do not feel that she has that right to shove me physically. I called the police, and deputy came to the house, and he asked me if I wanted her arrested. And I said, yes.
Was she arrested?
This is assault.
Was she arrested?
He did not arrest her.
Okay. Did you get your security deposit back?
I was told at the end, do not clean your room. I was feeling throughout this time that this woman was very jealous that I had a girlfriend. She comes and she pounds on the door when I'm on the phone with my girlfriend in the evening, screaming and pounding on the door. She got the phone number somehow of my girlfriend. This was a few weeks ago. She calls her up and spends 20 minutes telling her what a horrible person I am.
Why didn't your girlfriend hang up?
I don't know.
Why don't you ask her?
I did.
And what did she say?
She said that she doesn't do that to people.
Doesn't hang up on people?
Yeah.
Where are you living now?
I'm living in La Jolla.
With whom?
I'm living by myself in an apartment.
By yourself? No more girlfriend?
I have a girlfriend.
She stay over?
She lives where she lives.
And so you just visit?
Yes.
Fine. You're getting along okay by yourself?
I'm doing my best, but I also feel I have been harmed by this woman, and I do feel that my suit is just.
Well, not every affront, Dr. Levin, is cause for a lawsuit. What you were complaining about was first some harassment by her because she was treating you as a mate, which is something you hadn't bargained for. But then later you said to me that you confided in her as a friend about certain things about your own life and your relationship with your father. So it's clear to me that this just wasn't a one-sided conversation where you were trying to blindly have your dinner and she was just yakking off at the mouth and you just wanted to be quiet. There was a conversation.
Which ended with the business about my body.
Stop saying your body, sir. Talk about the fact that she looked at your legs while you were in shorts and she said to you, you have nice legs. If, in fact, she said that at all. I mean, that's not something that would send a rational person into a tailspin.
Well, it was more than the statement. It was the feeling that went with it. You can tell when a person is doing that.
I don't think that she was prepared to attack you, Dr. Levin.
No, I wasn't worried about being attacked. It was
you were
a
worried
feeling
about what?
That she had other ideas than my just sitting there and eating meals, that I was
Okay.
to be something more than a renter.
Well, that's possible, sir. Maybe she felt as if you had developed a friendship over the course of the month or so that you were living there. You confiding in her about your intimate history, she confiding in you about her intimate history. Maybe she felt as if you were just shy and not prepared to make the first move. Now, she is, as you point out in your complaint, somewhat older than you are, but is your girlfriend somewhat younger than you are?
No.
The same age? Good for you. Like to hear that. Don't like to hear about these guys dating.
That's wrong, too. She's quite a bit younger.
No, she's a year older than I am, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, she probably looks pretty good then.
Yes, Your
She
Honor.
ever been married?
I don't know.
You don't know if your girlfriend's ever been married?
I don't choose to discuss it.
She's never been married. She has no children. Now I know why she looks terrific.
She has children.
All right. Let me get to your counterclaim.
The real damage was my being unable to eat when I couldn't use the kitchen. I couldn't be within 10 feet of this woman.
It's a lie.
That's a
I had
result-
to eat out of the back of my truck
It's
while
a-
Dr.
ill.
Levin, is that as a result of a court order?
This was, yes, I couldn't be within 10 feet of her.
I cannot look beyond that, sir. I cannot look beyond the order of another court that says you cannot be within 10 feet or whatever of the defendant. That's something that a court determined that they were prepared to impose as a result of some fact, which I'm not prepared to get into now. Now, you didn't return his security deposit.
No, because it was used up.
Okay.
Because he canceled the checks, and then he gave me only one check for the rent back. And
I have a stop payment on this check, sir, that's made out to Margot Richter, dated
Yeah.
the 3rd of August, for $433 for August's rent and July's utilities. Did you cancel a check that you sent to her?
Yeah, but I paid it after that.
no, he didn't.
When I
pay the whole
decided to
check.
stay, I did pay it.
Can I see a copy of your check?
I don't have it.
Well,
I
then
haven't
the
felt
only
well
thi-
enough to find anything, Your Honor,
Dr.
when I
Levin,
try to get these
Dr. Levin,
papers.
this is, you have a whole bunch of papers there, and it would seem to me that you would know that I would ask you to make sure that there was rent paid each month that you were living there and utilities, and the only thing that I have is a check that you stopped payment on, dated August 3rd, and also a check that you stopped payment on, dated August 4th, that you indicated here were for lunches. Now, so you say the security deposit was used up.
Yes.
I agree with you, because he didn't pay the rent for August. So you don't have to return a security deposit. Now, what else are you suing him for? I want to hear about your stress.
Okay, he called the police twice on me. He called the fire department and said I gave him a heart attack. And
Your Honor,
he
that was
crushed
not
my.
true.
He was never home on during the day. He was always on the beach. That's what he told me anyway. And that Sunday, I have planned my barbecue for the longest. Once a year, I have a barbecue, and my friends come from far away. And he wanted to crash my party, so he stayed home and called the police on me.
Miss Richter,
Yeah.
are you happy to be rid of him?
Oh, yes, I am.
So now you're rid of him.
Yeah, but I have been. I'm not the same, I tell you that.
Well-
I only had 4 hours sleep because I can't sleep. I'm on pills.
Why can't you sleep now? Now he's gone.
Because all of the flashbacks I have from him.
Stop with
He has-
flashbacks. Listen to
No.
me. Did you ever rent a room in your trailer before?
Did you see the letters he wrote me? And
Let me see the letters he wrote you.
Your Honor, when I
Did you
came back
have you
from
rent?
the-
I'm speaking. Did you ever rent a room before, Miss Richter, in your
No,
trailer?
never.
Are you
No.
ever going to do it again?
never, no.
Okay, good. That sounds right to me.
May I say something, Your Honor?
Certainly.
I do not agree that I was causing all this trouble.
Yes, you have.
This is something
Listen, you
that-
didn't get along together. That was a problem. What else? Miss Richter.
He grabbed. I would like to tell you a story. What happened when he called the police the first time? Like he said, he was holding the refrigerator open. He has been eating for 27 days my food out of the refrigerator, and I said, "This is it." He grabbed the milk, not the butter. He grabbed the milk, and I said, "Put the milk back." And he stood there, and it was a hot day, and he just kept the refrigerator open. I said, "Please close the door." And I said it 2-3 times. He didn't close the door. I was standing next to him on the stove. He is my double-door refrigerator, and he had the door on this side.
I won't bother to tell you this is untrue.
And
interrupt her.
he came. I put my hand over him and closed the door. That's when he called the police and said I touched him. But
He's just a minute. Miss Richter, listen to me. He's very sensitive. Ms. Richter, did he use a phone? Do you have any bills? Where
I have a lot of bills here, yeah. I have a countersuit.
I understand what your countersuit is for bills that he owes you. Give me a, for instance, like what bills?
Oh, electricity.
Forget electricity. It was hardly there. Right, your phone bill.
I cleaned his carpet because I couldn't afford to call a carpet cleaner, you know.
I was told not to clean the room.
I told you not to clean the carpet because I don't want my carpet ruined. You ruined another carpet. You washed it in hot water and all the backing came off and everything.
Did he use your phone?
Only
Did he
once.
use?
I don't even mention that.
Okay. So, sir, you used up your security deposit on the utilities and probably for some of the damage you did to the room because you acknowledged that the carpet was a mess. But you also didn't pay her August's rent, and according to you, you lived there in the month of August. You didn't move out until September. I have no proof that you paid her.
I can't prove that I paid it, but I did pay the money, and she's lying.
It's $400 for August's rent. Now, you moved out September what?
4th.
Did you pay for September?
I was forced to do other things in September, like go to court with another thing that she comes up with, that I had to go on the terrible day of September 11th, where I'm being accused of all kinds of things. Finally, we had to obviously abandon the courthouse that day and go the next day. And this finally, I don't know what she was involved with, something about some spilled coffee or something.
All right,
and I had to, this was dismissed.
$433 you canceled this check for, and that was for July's utilities and August rent. In addition, you gave her a check that you stopped payment on for $85.64 for lunches, so clearly you thought that you owed her that. $518.64. That's what he owes you, Miss Richter. Don't rent any more rooms to strangers. Your lawsuit's dismissed. Your counterclaim as indicated.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
All parties on Briscoe versus Briscoe. Step forward, please.
47-year-old administrator Beverly Briscoe is suing her ex-husband, 49-year-old hairstylist Adolph Briscoe, for illegally repossessing her car. Adolph is countersuing for car payments, the cost of insurance, and credit card bills.
Ms. Briscoe, the defendant is your former husband.
Yes, yes.
You were married but have been divorced for many years.
Yes.
And to your credit, according to both of you, I assume, you've remained friends.
Yes, we did.
Good. And then you did a very foolish thing. You decided to buy a car from him.
Yes, I did.
Here goes the trouble. When did you decide to purchase the car?
On March the 15th.
Of this year?
Of this year.
You purchased the car for $8,000 in total.
Yes.
$4,000 was to go to Mr. Briscoe.
Yes.
The other $4,000 was what was outstanding on the loan.
Yes.
You did not change the loan to put it in her name. She was going to make the payments herself.
Yes, ma'am.
So you paid him a total of
$1,500 on the 15th of March.
Oh, and then you made an additional payment to him. On what date?
On the 29th, I gave him $500. On April the 12th, I gave him $500. On April the 28th, I gave him $500. On May the 12th, I gave him another $500. I have everything down here with my bank statements and everything.
Okay, let me see your bank statement. No, just take out your bank statement, don't. Just give me the whole portfolio.
And the days that I got paid, and Mr. Briscoe I had written down the dates that I got paid.
All right. So in total, you claim you gave him $3,500.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to what I've read, you made an additional 2 payments to the bank.
Yes.
And then in the 3rd month, he claims you were late in the car payment, and he came and repossessed the car.
Yes, a day late. I didn't breach my contract with Mr. Briscoe. He was very upset at me because someone that I chose to be in my life, and this is the person here.
I don't care. I put the picture away. I don't care who you chose to be in your life.
But that's why he was upset, and he chose to come get the car from me on the 21st of May.
When is the car payment due?
On the 20th.
On the 20th.
Had you mailed the payment in?
I was getting ready to mail it on the 22nd.
So you hadn't mailed it in?
No, I haven't.
So they weren't going to get it at least for another 2 or 3
yes,
days?
Yes, and the month before that I mailed it on the 26th. He didn't give me a call then. That's when we were still friends.
Did she give you $3,500?
No, she did not.
How much did she give you, sir?
She gave me $2,500.
Well, this doesn't show. This just shows that you took out money.
I have money orders on the back.
Money orders?
Yes, of $500.
Just a minute. I have 5, 10, 15.
And the other two, I gave him
$1,500.
cash. I can't show you anything because I gave him cash the first 2 times. He knows that I gave him $1,500. Then I gave on the 29th, I gave him...
Was the $1,500 in cash, sir?
Yes, it was.
Then I have 3 money orders made out to you in the amount of $500 each, which brings the total on this to $3,000, not $2,500.
Then I am $500 off.
When I gave him the $1,500, that was cash.
He acknowledges that you gave him the $1,500
But he can't remember
cash.
the other, on the 29th, he can't remember
Maybe
that
not.
also. No.
Okay, it's $3,000. The 2 car payments that you made to him, you drove the car.
Yes.
For those 2
I don't
months.
want the money back for that.
Fine.
Because I drove the car.
Okay, now let's get to your counterclaim, Mr. Briscoe. According to you, several years ago you weren't feeling well, and your former wife came to take care of you, and you were feeling very benevolent towards her. So you decided to give her a credit card to help her out, or a couple of credit cards to help her out. Tell me about these credit cards. Did you take credit cards?
Yes, he gave me the
from him?
credit cards. He gave them to me in December. I have payments that I made each month to the credit card place. Adolph eventually turned them off. I have a tape that he said he's going to cut everything off when we had the argument on April the 20th.
So how much do you owe on the credit cards?
I owed, I believe on one of them I owe like maybe $900.
And on the other one?
Probably about 2 or 3.
How much does she owe on the credit cards?
She owes $1,500 total.
Show me.
On
Just show me. She may not be 100% right. She's not so far off.
And Judge Judy, he turned them off, so I couldn't make arrangements to pay them.
Okay.
Because they said they cut off, they're closed, lost credit cards. I couldn't make any arrangement. He closed them out.
$1,250. Well, that's about what you said.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, you want her to pay what else, sir?
There's another credit card as well for $500, which I have told I have paid $200.
No, I have to see the balance. I have to see her balance on that credit card.
They were going to send me all of that, and they didn't send it in time.
Well, I can't help you with that,
And
sir.
Judge Judy, they'll just do $29. And Adolph, if he wouldn't have turned it off, I could pay that.
You owe him the money.
Okay.
My question to you, Mr. Briscoe,
Yes.
is why didn't you give her back the money she had paid you? You took the car back.
Right.
Do you think you're entitled to keep the $3,000 that she paid you for
Absolutely,
the car?
I have.
Shh.
You
So
asked
the
me.
answer is yes. You think
Yes.
you're entitled to keep that money.
Absolutely.
Well, explain to me why, sir.
Your Honor, when they collect your car and you don't pay your payments, no one gives you
Adolph,
any
you
money
were late
back.
for 2 months
Mrs.
when I
Briscoe,
took care of
Miss
you.
Briscoe,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to hear you when he's speaking. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You are not Ford Motor Corporation.
I am the one that's responsible for the car.
You are not Ford Motor Corporation. If after
So
2
she
months,
drives
sir,
my
I'm
car for
speaking,
3 months?
try not to speak over me, Mr. Briscoe. You will be unsuccessful. If she paid you $3,000, and I'm discounting the money she says she gave you in cash because she has no
She didn't
proof
give
of
me
that.
any money. Yes.
I'm speaking. If she gave you $3,000 and you took the car back within 2 months, you don't get to keep her
3 months.
$3,000. 3 months.
Yes.
You don't get to keep her $3,000. In addition, for the car payments she made, part of that went towards your principal on your loan. That helped you out a little bit, but she drove the car, and I'm not going to get into the pennies that it was to pay off a certain percentage of the loan over the 2 months period, but you certainly came out on top with regard to that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand, absolutely.
Well, if he doesn't understand, if you had time, you'll explain it to him outside. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,788, which deducts what you owe him for the credit card. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. This is case number 301 on the calendar in the matter of Elliott versus Elliott Pruitt. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Is that child necessary in the courtroom?
He's a witness.
How old is he?
5.
I'd like him to wait outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Miss Elliott, the defendant is your brother and the co-defendant is his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
According to you, you made a series of loans to your brother, which was only partially repaid. And then you claim that he assaulted you.
Yes.
And the vast majority of your claim is for damages as a result of that assault. That's what this is about. Your brother says that he paid you back and that it was actually you who assaulted him. So let's first start with the loans. When did you make these loans and what were they for?
Some were for miscellaneous things to start a new house.
When?
In April.
And how much did you give him in April?
$149 for the miscellaneous things, and then $465 for his first month's rent, and $20 for a credit check to get the place.
Now, Mr. Elliott, is it correct that your sister gave you that money?
Yes. Plus, I loaned him a futon, a box fan, and a ceiling fan that was to be returned to me.
Futon and 2 fans. Okay. How much did he pay you back for the loans?
He gave me one payment of $318, one payment of $3, and one payment of $50.
What was the $3 payment?
That's all she gave me that day. She said that's all they had.
So all told, they repaid you $371?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about the loans.
Well, I got it right here. This is my evidence for you to look at, that we paid him.
Did he ever sign a check over to you in the amount of $418?
Yeah, right around 5th of April, they got a check from AFDC for $418, and I cashed it and gave them $100 back. They said they needed it.
Does that sound right? Probably. I believe her. Speak.
She only gave us $100 back. It wasn't
That's
$160.
what I just said.
No, that's what she said. She gave you $100 back.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
So the answer is yes, she gave you $100 back. So what else are you showing me? What is $930?
That was for the lease because she helped us get the house.
No.
And stuff.
I'm asking you about the rest of the money. She said that you gave her back
Oh, I didn't bring
$318,
I didn't bring in my,
$3 and $50.
I didn't bring in my check stubs, but we don't have any receipt for the money that we exchanged because we didn't think it was going to be an issue.
What do you mean you don't think it was going to be an issue? What did you think you were coming here for? Ballet lessons?
No.
So you have no proof that you have fully repaid this loan, is that correct?
No.
Fine, so you owe her $263 on the loan.
Yes.
Yes. Why couldn't we just get there right from the beginning? Now, you have the futon and the 2 ceiling fans. Where are they?
In storage.
In storage?
Yes.
Well, those you'll get back to her?
Yes.
Fine. 5 days from today, she gets back the futon and the 2 ceiling fans.
There is a restraining order for them not to come near me, so how?
Oh, that's all right. We'll arrange for it. Do you have a local precinct?
Yes.
Yes.
At noon on the 5th of next month, your U-Hauler, the futon, and the 2 ceiling fans are to be in front of the precinct. Got it?
Yes.
Noon, high noon, futon and 2 fans. Now let's talk about this assault, because that's the remainder of your complaint. Let me hear.
I went over there and was sitting down talking to Candace. He came in and started yelling with his hands in my face. I started to say something. He said, "I didn't tell you you could talk, you bitch." And I stood up and was going to go out the door, but he was standing in front of the door. He had welding gloves on because that's what he was doing at the time, was welding work. He slapped me across the face. She was behind me in the living room and yelled, "Jeremy, no." And he kept yelling. I said, "That's it. I'm taking my name off the lease if you're not going to be responsible and respect me." He got mad and was still yelling. So I tried to get out the door, and he was trying to, with his body, push me back in or not let me out, blocking me. And he punched me in the face. I said, "That's it. I'm calling the cops." And he kept yelling, "You don't do that to family." I said, "You don't hit family either." I said, "I'm out of here. That's it. I don't care." She's yelling, "Kathy, just leave." I'm trying to leave, but he's not there anymore. My nephew has a heart condition and had open heart surgery, and he was with me. He was so scared he wouldn't go to the car. I'm trying to get him out of the way because he can't have any blows or anything to his chest. At that time, after he hit me the second time, I do believe I pushed him a little bit to get him away so I could get out the door. I came outside trying to get Lorenzo, telling him to move.
That's your nephew?
Yes, and he's scared. He's not going nowhere. I'm pushing him. He comes at me again. I did have a 32-ounce plastic cup in my hand that I threw and told him to get away from me, that I was leaving and I was calling the cops. He's still yelling, "You don't do that to family," and a bunch of other nice little names. And he came at me again. I did grab him in a headlock so that my face would not get punched anymore because it hurt. When I put him in the headlock, she jumped on my back. So I pushed him away, and I don't know where she went after that because she was no longer on my back. When he went to the ground, I grabbed my nephew and shoved him towards the car, and he came after me, threw my nephew in, went to get in. My window was down. He punched me in the left face again as I was in the car, and I took off and called the police.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kathleen Elliott says her brother, Jeremy Elliott, owes for unpaid loans, the return of property, and an assault. Jeremy says Kathleen is crazy and attacked him first.
Now we'll hear from you. Don't smile. Whether the story is accurate or not, it's nothing to laugh about.
It didn't exactly go down like that.
Well, I'm waiting, sir, for your version of the events.
What happened was my boss said that somebody was waiting out front of my work. He says, you need to go out there because they're asking for you. So I walk out there and it's my sister. She was waiting out there from 4 o'clock till 5 o'clock, knowing I don't get off till 5 o'clock. And my boss was, you need to tell her to leave. So I walked out there, you need to leave. I'm waiting for you to pay me. I said, well, I understand that, but I'm not off work yet, and you can't be out here.
Okay, your sister's waiting outside, waiting for you to give her some money that you owe her. So it comes 5 o'clock and you leave work. What did you do?
I get on my bike, I start riding.
Did you stop? You say, I'm going home, I'll see you home?
I said I was going to the liquor store.
You said you were going to the liquor store?
Yeah.
Is that right? No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Mr. Elliott, I have a detective back here. So I want you to be very careful what you say to me, sir. So let's get past the fact that you told her you were going to the liquor store to cash your check so that you could give her the money you owed her, because that never happened. You got on your bike and you rode home, right?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I proceeded on down Wilson Way, and then she's going at 5 miles an hour with traffic behind her screaming, I'm going to get my money one way or another, screaming and hollering at me and making a public scene. So I turned down one of the streets that she couldn't turn down. I don't remember the name of it. I got to the liquor store, and she wasn't there. So my house was right behind the liquor store, and she was there when I got there. I walked in the door and said, sis, we need to talk. For one, you can't be out front of my work. My boss is going to fire me over this. You're screaming, yeah, I need to pay you, I need to pay you. Well, give me some time to pay you. I can't pay you like that. I mean, I got to pay my bills. I have all kinds of other bills I have to pay back, too. That's when she gets up off the futon, and she like rhinoed me. That's how they put it. They rhinoed me out the door, and I hit the pole, and then after that, I don't know what happened because I was in a headlock.
So you're saying that you never punched her?
Nope.
You never put your hands on her?
You hit her with the glove.
Yeah, I hit her with the glove.
You did?
Yes.
When did you hit her with the glove?
Right before she grabbed me in the headlock.
But she'd already shoved me. Do you have any
I have
photographs?
that they took right afterwards, and I have a medical report saying that there's bruises, and they took x-rays.
I'd like to see.
And there's, somehow my foot got stepped on, and there's a picture of the mark that there's still a scar. There's some cuts on the cheek where they did a close-up from when he hit me open-handed with the welding gloves on the first time.
I see what appear to be scratches on your face that are consistent with being hit with something rough. Nothing black and blue.
Well,
no
that was
open
only half an
abrasions.
hour later.
You have any photographs afterwards?
No, they didn't come out.
I can't look at something that didn't come
But
out.
my sister saw the bruising afterwards.
If you had bruising afterwards, you take photographs. Were you arrested for this, sir?
No, I was not.
How come?
Because the deputy that we talked to, he said it just looks like it was a family dispute. And if I told him I said I didn't have no problems, and
she was on our property.
I did file a restraining order shortly after.
What happened with it?
I have a restraining order. Right now, it's good for 3 years.
You do?
Yes.
Can I
for
see
him
it,
to stay away
please?
from me and my nephew.
Can I see it, please?
They didn't bother to come.
How come you didn't show up for the hearing?
because at the time I was moving and I didn't receive the paperwork for it.
No, that's not true. That's a lie.
Served by the sheriff's
That's
department.
a lie.
At work.
I told you! Don't lie. She has proof of service by a sheriff, right?
Yes, at my work.
I didn't ask you whether you were served at your home or your work or on Mars. You were served, so why do you tell me that you weren't served?
I didn't mean it that I wasn't served.
That's what you just said. Isn't that what he just said?
On that paperwork, there wasn't
I wasn't
no
served
address.
and I was moving.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Or not address, the date.
All right. Miss Elliott, listen to me. He certainly owes you the $263. What was your unreimbursed medical
$86.93.
Let's make it $90.
Well, I also had to pay for medicine out of my own pocket for
And how much was that?
$43.54, and I had to go to physical therapy, cost gas, and then I had to pay $22 for the pictures and stuff from the police department.
Don't talk to me about gas. You had $133 out-of-pocket expense for both your medicals and your medicine.
Yes.
Those two things. 10 times that. $1,593. That's 10 times what your actual damages were, okay? Plus what he owes you for the loan. Because, Mr. Elliott, I don't believe anything that you say, sir. And I didn't even ask you anything, right?
Yeah.
You have your judgment?
If they don't return the furniture.
Oh, they'll return the furniture.
Not in good shape.
You didn't expect it back in great shape.
Yes, I did. They promised it would be returned in good condition.
How long have you known that he was marginal, madam?
He had never been marginal to me.
But you knew that he was
And
marginal
I
with other people.
Was in another state.
Just a minute. You knew he was
Yes, I
marginal with
did.
other people. You know, you got to use your good judgment. That's all.
Pardon our excuse, you may step out.
Well,
It's wrong.
It's wrong.
He was lying and she knew it.
I just hope she's happy now and she just goes on with her life.
He needs to grow up and act like a man.
Yeah, this is case number 305 on the calendar in the matter of Bianchi versus Myron. Parties been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Bianchi, the defendant is a former boyfriend of yours who you claim assaulted you, causing you to injure yourself in your college dormitory.
Correct.
When did this happen?
It was on May 23rd.
Tell me about the incident that caused this injury.
Well, what led up to it, it was really, our relationship was volatile for the past few months, issues with drugs and trying to get off of them. There was a lot of tension, and he was angry with me, I was angry with him. I was pushed down some stairs and hurt.
No. Don't go there yet.
Okay.
He came over to your dorm.
He lived in my dorm. We lived in the same one.
And you're sitting where, in a living room area?
Yes. We were watching a TV show.
Was there anybody else there?
Yes, there was. There was probably 5 people.
And what happened? You're watching television, another 5 people are there.
We had gotten in a little squabble about something and arguing back and forth.
What had you gotten into a squabble about?
I honestly don't remember. It was always something, though. Something.
So you were talking during the television program?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody tell you to be quiet?
No.
Okay. What happened next?
We were both kind of really angry with each other. And then just some like pushing and shoving.
What do you mean pushing and shoving?
What?
Shh. What do you mean pushing and shoving?
Back and forth.
Who started pushing?
It was both at the same time.
So you were pushing each other on the shoulders?
Kind of like back and forth. And then.
How did that happen? What do you mean back and forth? Explain that to me.
We were angry with each other, and he had ice also. He was throwing it at me. And after we were done pushing each other, we got up. And then that's when everything started leading to this.
Well, so after you were pushing each other on the couch, then you both got up at the same time?
Yes.
And what happened when you got up?
What happened when we had gotten up was, since we were hitting each other, he wanted to hold me down. He held me down onto the floor. I couldn't move.
Yes.
We got back up. I went after him. Going after him, I still needed to speak with him.
What do you mean you went after him?
Walked after him.
So he went to walk away?
Yes.
He went to leave?
Mm-hmm.
And you went after him?
Yeah,
so his
to
back
speak
is
with
towards
him
you?
about what, yes.
So his back is towards you. And what happened at that point?
He turned around and I got pushed across the room.
What?
And into the sunken den. There's 2 stairs and heard a snap.
And that's when you hurt your leg?
Yes.
And you were on crutches for a while?
Yes.
You lost your job?
Mm-hmm.
And you had expenses?
Yes.
Right? And you want him to pay you $5,000.
Huh?
Okay. Now let me hear your version of these events.
We were sitting down as she said, things were we did argue a lot. That was the extent of it, verbal arguments. And we're sitting down watching a TV show, watching Dawson's Creek season finale. I could give a crap about Dawson's Creek. I had...
Excuse me.
Thank you. I had a 10-page paper due the next day.
I'm not interested in your paper.
I'm sorry, I'm procrastinating, so I got up, and I said, I'm going to go write my paper. And she said, excuse my language, but out of nowhere. And I was like, what? And as soon as I turned around and said, what? She picked up a Starbucks mug and threw it straight at my genitalia. And she had pretty good aim, because I lifted my knee like this, and it hit me right in the shin. And getting hit in the shin hurts really bad. It left a knot like about that big on my shin, about that much inch raised off my shin, bleeding. I was like, ow! And then, sorry, I'm just trying to, it was crazy. So, I grabbed her by arms, and I set her down, like, I was really stern, and I set her down on the couch, right where she was sitting. Then she got up and threw it. I put her back on the couch. I started walking away, really mad. Started walking towards my dorm, right? She was right about my back being turned towards her. She came, the reason I looked back was because she was screaming. She was like, ah, coming after me, and all I seen was arms flailing like this, and I protected myself, and I blocked her arms, I grabbed her, I wrestled her onto the ground, and it wasn't that hard. I'm a state champion wrestler, and it wasn't that hard, and so I took her down, held her there, give her time to like think and maybe stop. No, as soon as I let her go, she jumped right back to her feet, came right at me again, scratched me. I held her again, put her down to the ground. Her hands got away. She hit me twice in the face, and we stood up. I had Courtney by the arms right here, holding her arms so she couldn't hit me anymore. And I said, you know what, and I said, it's over. I'm done, because I just don't deal with the physical violence. That's not who I am. And she came at me with that, and I told her to zip, and that's when I broke up with her.
Okay, and you pushed her and she fell.
Yeah, she stumbled back. There's a step going into the den. She tripped. She fell on her butt. I can't see how she could have tore a ligament.
She tore a ligament in her leg.
Yeah, so it happened, but it was out of self-defense.
Miss Bianchi, who started the physical stuff, Miss Bianchi?
Who started the physical? It was on both of our parts.
Then you got the worst of the bargain.
But I don't consider the shoving and verbal need for me to be thrown back down some stairs.
Well, sometimes that happens. You said that you were in a physical fight with him. Somebody always is going to get the bad, worse part of the deal. Somebody's always going to end up the loser in a physical fight.
That's what I'm saying, though. It didn't get too physical until he actually had
That's
thrown
not
me.
true. There's no question in my mind that you slapped him, right?
After he had been holding me down, yes.
Well,
it wasn't on the couch that he had set me down.
Let me tell you something. He was holding you down for a reason. What do you think the reason was that he got you to the ground and he was holding you down?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think he was holding you down?
Because I was yelling at him close face to face.
No. But you just told me you were fighting with each other. Physically.
Pushing, shoving.
Well, that's what he did. That's what he did. You pushed him, he pushed you, you pushed him, he pushed you, you fell, and you hurt yourself. What do you want from the courts?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Courtney Bianchi says ex-boyfriend Nikishna Myron injured her ankle during an assault. Nikishna says Courtney started it by throwing a coffee cup at him.
Go ahead.
I want him to be responsible for his actions, because after this had happened, he told me, I'll pay for whatever it cost, that it was his fault.
It wasn't his fault.
He admitted guilt to it, and he offered to pay for the medical bills that would
Did you offer to pay for the medical bills?
I offered to help. Trying to be a good human being, and we were broken up. I didn't want nothing to do with her, but I knew medical bills were expensive. I said, I'll help.
You'll help pay the medical bills.
And then I
well,
told
then
her,
you agreed to pay the medical
bills. I
bills.
said when I could.
He said he would pay for all of them.
And she said, well, and I stopped talking to her over the summer, and she's all, well, when am I going to get the money? I said, well, I got to deal like rent first. I got to survive.
Just a second. So you agreed to pay for, according to you, some of the medical bills.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. That was very generous of you. But if you agreed to pay for it, that's an agreement that you had with her. So you have to pay for some of her medical bills. He doesn't pay for anything else, madam. You want him to pay $5,000. How much were your medical bills?
$1,598 for the emergency room, $70 for x-rays.
And how much of that was reimbursed by insurance?
None.
Why
it
not?
was because of the way that it happened. I had to be taken to an emergency room. I heard a snap, and I didn't want to wait around to be taken to one of the planned facilities.
So you don't have insurance that covers emergency room treatment?
I do have insurance as long as I go through my provider.
What kind of provider do you have?
Kaiser Permanente.
Did you submit the bill to Kaiser?
Yes. And they sent me back a bill saying this is how much you owe, that they didn't cover it.
Well, then let me see that. Let me see the letter from Kaiser.
That's what they sent me, is the bill. They submitted it from the emergency room, which was Irvine Medical Center, to Kaiser, and Kaiser sent me the bill.
Okay.
For it.
All right, your total medical bills was $1,668. You don't get anything for pain and suffering, you don't get anything for lost wages, you don't get anything for your aggravation, and you get half your medical bills because you are at least half responsible for what happened that day. Just because you enter into an argument that escalates into physical violence with somebody, and even if the somebody happens to be a man, that doesn't mean that if you get the worst end of the deal or the short end of the stick, you get compensated. Quite frankly,
I'm saying is, because of his past, he says he's not that kind of person. I have a lot of things right here.
I'm not interested in a lot
that he is.
I'm not interested in a lot of things. You didn't tell me about throwing the Starbucks coffee cup at him. How come?
After he held me down?
How come you didn't tell me about throwing the Starbucks coffee cup at him?
I don't know. I'm guessing I'm kind of nervous and I forgot about it.
Right.
Your Honor?
What?
I just don't feel I should pay her anything because I think she's exaggerating this whole thing. It's a big facade. She wasn't that hurt.
She went to the emergency room. I wouldn't ordinarily give her a thing, quite frankly, sir.
She was...
Listen to me.
Okay.
I wouldn't give her a farthing. But you agreed to help her with her medical bills.
Understand.
And then, after you agreed to help her with her medical bills, you said, well, I got other bills to pay. I got rent that I got to deal with and other things, but you had agreed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
So, if it wasn't for that agreement, I wouldn't give her anything. We understand each other?
Understand.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $834. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I have papers right here for his DUI, shoplifting, purchasing airline tickets on stolen credit cards.
2 weeks later, she wasn't even hurt. She was jumping on the bed naked in the dorms in front of 1,000 people, enough to hit her head 3 times on the ceiling.
Stay away from drug addicts.
I wouldn't recommend going out with this woman. Stay away.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Robinson versus Coleman. Step forward, please.
42-year-old nurse Torresanto Robinson is suing his ex-girlfriend, 43-year-old waitress Carolyn Coleman, for unpaid credit card charges and a gas bill. Carolyn says Torresanto has already been paid.
Mr. Robinson, you claim loans to the defendant.
Yes, I do.
She says you've been paid. How do you know her?
I met Mrs. Coleman back around 97, 98. We became friends. We dated a while, and she had an excellent job. I had excellent credit. She asked me to help her out with some utility things, which I put a lot of things in my name. As time went on, she took care of everything, the credit card, the utilities.
What credit card? I didn't hear credit card.
Yes, I got her a credit card also.
Why'd you get her a credit card for?
I mean, she was a good friend, and I trusted her, and she swore she would take care of the bill, no problem, and she did for a while.
And?
And as time went on, we decided to do other things in life, and she bought a house further away from me, and I could let the card be shipped to her home.
You let the card?
Yes. I had the address changed where it be mailed to her home. She continued to pay for a while, then as of June of this year, creditors started calling me. And around May of this year, I purchased another home for myself, and I found out that it was some utility bill that was unpaid. I went back to her and notified her of this. She took care of them all but one.
Which one didn't she take care of?
She did not take care of the gas bill.
How much is the gas bill?
It's $105.
So the gas bill is $105 that she didn't take care of.
$105.17, I'm sorry.
I have a difficult time enough with math. Don't talk to me about 17 cents. $105 was the gas bill. And what about the credit cards?
The credit card bill was $1,052.71.
And you never used this card?
No, I did not.
Okay. Let me see it.
Sure. If you can see, one of the statements, it have her address on it showing that the bill was going to her, and the other one had my address because I had to call them or have it sent back to me what I know what wasn't paid.
Okay, but during all the time she had this particular credit card, the bill was sent to her?
Yes. Not in the beginning, it was coming to me. After she moved to about 130-some miles away from me, that's when we sit down and decide, okay, we'll let the bill come to
her. And when did she move? When did you move?
I moved March of 2000.
So after March of 2000, the bills were coming to you directly on the credit card? That's easy enough to figure out. All I have to do is call the credit card company, madam.
I had the bills. I called the credit card company and had them come because he was getting all the bills, and I didn't know what was being on there or nothing.
So the bills were coming to you? All right. So, gas bill $105, Credit card bill, $1,052. Let me hear.
Okay, Your Honor, I can't believe he's doing this to me, but anyway, I paid him the money for the bills that he claimed that I didn't owe. I gave him an $800 check, and he was supposed to have paid those bills.
When?
On March the 2nd.
Judge, the $800 she gave me, that was after I tried to purchase my home, that was a Comcast cable bill that the finance company would not accept my loan for the simple fact that I had an outstanding bill for $800-some for a cable bill. I turned around, called her and told her, I cannot get a loan for my house because they got this against me. She gave me $800. I went up there and I paid Comcast cable that amount.
No.
That was
Are
the
you chewing
bill.
gum?
I'm sorry.
Miss Coleman.
Yes.
You used this credit card, madam. You continued to use this credit card after March of 2000.
No, ma'am.
Let me see the bills after March of 2000.
I have, from the day one I gave, this is all bills. And she had a good job, she traveled. You look and see, you can see them all over the place.
Just one second. I just want to look after March of 2000.
I did not use the card after March.
What?
I did not use that card in March.
I said after March of 2000.
Okay, excuse me.
You want to change your answer now? No. Did you use the card after March of 2000?
No, ma'am.
I never made one purchase on that card. Not one.
What's an action draft payment? Anybody know?
I guess it was through her bank. Yes, I'm pretty sure, because she did tell me once that the bank was automatically taking it out. The credit card was automatically coming from her checking account.
Well, that was done in April. That's after March. What's Sweet Sue?
Never heard of a Sweet Sue.
Is your new address 71?
Yes, ma'am.
So this bill was sent to you, showing what the balance was on the account in April, in May, and then the balances kept growing and growing because of finance charges, and you kept receiving these bills at your new address. What did you do with them when you got them?
I rarely check the mail, so my daughter might have gotten them and put them away because she does that.
That's a lot of baloney, Miss Coleman.
Well, no, that's the truth.
No, that's a lot of baloney, Miss Coleman. Miss Coleman, you are clearly responsible for this. The fact that your daughter put away your mail and you didn't look for it, then you're responsible for it. But don't give me a lot of baloney that you never saw these bills.
No, I didn't.
Maybe one you could miss. March, April, May, June. This is a July bill, and you just ignored it. Why did you think you could get away with this?
I wasn't trying to get away with anything.
Sure you were.
After all the thousands of dollars to him that I paid to him over the couple of years that we was together, that was...
Wait a second. Because that's what you say in your answer.
Yes.
You say in your answer, I bought him a lot of jewelry and clothes and a lot of other things in the time that we were together.
Yes.
I more than paid him back. Now you're telling me that you bought him enough things and you just chose to ignore these bills because they were on his credit card. I would like to know what your defense is.
Well, my defense is that I gave him money to pay on the bills that he claimed that I owe him.
Okay, well, that defense is clearly non-existent because if you gave him money of March of 2000, you owed a lot more money on these cards. They kept building up and building up and building up. Your daughter threw away the bill. She hid the bill. You didn't see the bill. You bought him a lot of stuff when you were together.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
All of the above.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested, $1,111. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Case number 310 on the calendar in the matter of Siegfried versus McGeorge. Parties have been sworn. You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Ms. Siegfried, it is your complaint that the defendant reneged on an agreement that the two of you had when you entered into a contest. And the contest, which you'll explain to me, had as its prize a car. And you claim that the defendant agreed that if she won the car, she would either sell the car and give you half of the proceeds, but she would share the prize with you, and likewise, if you won, you would share it with her. She, in fact, won the car and refuses to sell it or give you half of its value. That's what the case is about.
Right.
So, this was a good friend of yours?
A very good friend of mine, yes.
Now tell me about the contest.
It was actually put on by a local radio station. The two of us...
Where?
In L.A. We were going to try to win tickets to see a particular group.
A group? What kind of group?
NSYNC.
I've heard of them.
We were trying to win concert tickets through this radio station, and we had been calling for over a week. We'd been trying very hard to win these tickets, and in the process, through one of the times that we called, Deanna was asked if she would like to participate in another contest that they had running at the same time, which involved sitting in a car for a week. And at that time, I was with Deanna when she was on the phone with the radio station. And
where were you?
We were actually in my car coming home from a mall where we were meeting one of the DJs from the radio station. And we had decided when we left the mall that let's try and win the tickets again. So she continued calling, and at that time, she was asked, would you like to be in a car contest? And her response was, would this make me lose out on winning the tickets to the concert? And they told her yes, that you would not be eligible any longer to win the tickets. And she's like, well, I don't know. And I'm all, just do it. It'd be fun. Just do it. So she's decided now at this point that she's going to be in the contest.
All right. Now, what exactly was the contest?
She was to sit in a car for a week.
Alone?
No, there were other contestants that were going to be participating. The original rules set forth were that the person who stayed in the car the longest would win the car. And when myself and her went down to the contest, I drove her down there. We found out prior to the contest, the beginning, that it would end on Sunday regardless of...
How many people's tuchuses were still in the car?
There were 2 cars.
Okay.
And in one car there were 4 people, and in our car there was myself, Deanna, and another contestant.
They couldn't get 4 people. They
That's
couldn't
correct.
get 4 lunatics.
That's correct. They suckered me into it instead.
Okay, so you got down there with her, and they said, would you like to sit in the car too?
Right. They asked me if I would be interested in staying in the car because they didn't have enough contestants to participate. So they asked me if I would be interested in staying down there. I wasn't very...
Was it the same radio station that was running this contest?
The same radio station, yes, that was giving away the tickets for the concert, yes.
And at the end of the contest, which was going to be that Sunday, if everybody is left in the car, how do they choose a winner?
They drew straws.
They said it would be a drawing.
Right.
That's all they said.
Okay. So the 2 of you stayed in the car for the entire week?
Yes, we did.
Is that right?
Yes.
How were you fed?
How were we fed? We were sponsored by a local restaurant that
They just gave you the food in the car?
They brought us meals throughout the day.
And what about potty breaks? How do you do that?
They specified them as 3-hour breaks. And at that time, we were able to get out of the car for 15 minutes and do what we needed to do, to stretch and what have you.
And what about sleeping? You just slept whenever?
They slept in the car. I personally did not sleep for 4 days straight, but we slept in the car.
In the car?
In the position that we were sitting in. We were never able to leave the position of the car that we were in.
What if you had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night?
You went in the car.
Seriously?
Nobody actually did that.
We never had that come up, but yes, that would have been...
Or you get out.
Or you get out of the car and go to the bathroom.
And then you're out of the contest?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And sometimes they didn't wake us up to go.
I would never last in a contest like that. Okay, so the end of the week came, and it's on Sunday, and the 3 of you were left in your car?
Right, correct. The other car, they had already designated a winner.
So, drew straws.
Correct.
And you picked?
It was actually numbered straws, and they had corresponding numbered envelopes that had keys in the envelopes. And I picked a straw with the number 2 on it, and the envelope number 2, and they said whatever key started the car, that person was to win the car.
And you won?
Yes.
So now tell me about this contract that you allege you had with her. Because it's clear that she decided not to sell the car, she decided to keep the car, friendship's over, she said, I'm not selling the car and I'm not giving any money.
Correct.
Now tell me your version of the contract that you had with her.
Okay. Simply, while we were sitting in the car, her and I discussed that we would sell the car and split the money from the car. And in the process, we would also win tickets to see NSYNC. One of us would get the tickets and we would split everything.
Okay, and did you get the NSYNC tickets?
Yes, I did.
And did you go with the defendant?
I did take the defendant to the concert.
So far, that's all right. Mm-hmm. Now tell me about your understanding of this agreement that you had with her.
As far as the agreement goes, when we got in the car together, she had mentioned something about if either one of us wins the car, let's sell it and split the money. And I had said, I don't want to agree to anything just yet. I don't know what the outcome of the contest is. So I can't say yes or no. I don't want to say yes or no because I don't know if I'm even going to win. I don't know if you're even going to win.
And this was a conversation that you said you had as soon as you got into the car?
It wasn't directly right when we got in the car, but
within a day or so?
The first day.
Within the first day?
Mm-hmm.
And you stayed in the car together for 5-6 days?
Mm-hmm. Nothing else was ever mentioned.
And did you speak to each other?
Yeah.
Friendly, laughing?
Mm-hmm.
Then I don't believe you. And I'm going to tell you why I don't believe you.
Okay.
If she's your friend and What she's saying is absolutely right. The two of you being in this contest certainly increased your chances of winning.
Right.
You got much better odds with the two of you deciding that whoever wins, it's going to be like a joint winning.
Right. Except that the whole reason I was doing this was because I was in some financial problems, and if I were to win the car, I wanted to use that to help
And what
me
if you lost everything? You think that if you lost everything, you would take the same position as you're taking now? No, you wouldn't.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Deborah Siegfried says former friend Deanna McGeorge refuses to share a car they won in a radio contest. Deanna says they only agreed to share another prize, tickets to an NSYNC concert.
So you had financial problems, but you made an agreement with her. And the agreement was that if either of you won this contest, you were going to share the prize money. And how could you not?
That agreement?
Yes, you did. Sure you did. You may have put it in the back of your mind, forgot about it, said, it's not really what I meant. I said I would sell the car, but now I'm not going to sell the car because I really want the car. I'm going to keep the car, so where am I going to get money to give you? And forget it, and the friendship is over. It's really outrageous, Miss McGeorge. How long had you been
Well, that
friends?
wasn't exactly how it happened. We had been friends up way after the contest, and I had explained to her that I wasn't going to sell the car, and she was fine with that. Nothing was ever mentioned from the contest from the time of, I would say, April until about September. September is when she started all this.
Why?
Because we had gone on vacation in August together, and we both had some mishaps. We got in an argument, and when we got back, I hadn't called her for a couple days, and she left me a message on my voicemail, which I thought was very rude, and I didn't want to call her back. I was just wanting to take some time away from her because we had been in arguments, and I decided that I wasn't going to call her back.
Had you discussed between the time that you won this contest and the time you went on vacation what you were going to do with the car?
When I actually received the car in April, I had told her that I decided I was going to keep the car.
And what did she say to you at that point?
She really didn't say anything. We were in the gym, and she walked out on me.
She was angry.
Yeah, I understand.
She was
that.
angry.
I understand that.
Well, I just want to make sure that that's clear, that that was not, at least as far as she was concerned, her understanding.
Right.
You said to her, I decided to keep it. Bye. So she was angry. Another thing, did you win the concert tickets to NSYNC as a sort of a second prize?
I was given concert tickets to see NSYNC and also some tickets to another group.
How many tickets were you given to NSYNC?
At the time, they were only going to give me 2, but she had asked me if I could please ask the gentleman to get us 2 more because we had planned
I
on...
didn't ask her to.
I had asked on... We had planned on taking her niece and her niece's friend to the concert as well, so she thought that if I asked him for 4, he might give us 4, and then all 4 of us could go together.
But if you hadn't gotten the 4, and if you just got the 2, who was supposed to go?
It would be Deanna and myself.
And you, in fact, went?
Yes, we did.
So you split that prize money?
Yes, I did.
Or that prize, whatever it was?
Correct.
Isn't that registering with you?
Yeah.
Huh?
That registers just completely fine with me.
You're better off without her. You got it? Not an honorable person. What kind of car did you win?
It was a Kia Rio.
You have the value?
Yes, I do. I have 3 invoices.
Can I see it, please?
You wouldn't do that to me, would you?
I sure wouldn't. You wouldn't do that to me, would you?
No, never.
Huh? The lawsuit is for $5,000, which is maximum allowed in this court. Correct. Clearly half of the value of the car. Were there any things that you had to pay for on the car? Did you have to pay any taxes on the car?
Yes, I had
What
to
kind
pay.
of taxes did you have to pay?
The tax, title, and license.
Other than that, you have to pay income tax on winning.
Yeah, we haven't received anything yet because it comes at the end of the year.
Mhm.
It's a winning a prize tax.
You know how much it is?
I'm not exactly sure how much it is.
Do you work?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
Customer service. Retail.
How much do you earn?
Approximately $10 an hour.
A year.
About 20,000.
So you're probably in the 15% bracket, is that right?
That'd be about right.
Even deducting for the taxes that you would have to pay and that she would have to pay on these winnings and the tags and everything else, it's still in excess of the $5,000, which is the limit of this court, and I'm awarding you $5,000. You have to be an honorable person, that's all.
Thank you,
Judge
Your Honor.
Excuse, you may step out.
I feel that Judge Judy was very fair, and she took the time to listen to what I had to say, and I think she truly understood the facts of the case.
I think it's completely wrong that she should be getting $5,000.
I truly never wanted our friendship to end. I can't speak on Deanna's half, but I never wanted it to come to this.
It was never a complete agreement. We never agreed on anything at all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Williams versus Stewart. Step forward, please.
46-year-old homemaker Pamela Williams is suing her former friend, 28-year-old hairstylist Shay Stewart, for an unpaid car loan and utility bills. Shay says she worked off the debt by braiding hair.
Well, I'm going to cut right to the chase here because the facts are a little bit complicated on the plaintiff's side, so I'm going to just cut right through them. You and the defendant were friends for many years, and she was going through some hard times, and you helped her out. In 1996, you co-signed for a car for her.
Correct.
She couldn't get a car on her own. So far, that's correct.
Right.
And during the next few years, she had serious problems paying for that car, and during the course of several transactions, the car was repossessed. You had to go and sign a paper, again co-signing, in order to make sure your credit was clean and the car was paid for. She got the car back. You did not get the car back. But there was a substantial amount left owing on the car, even when they sold it off for whatever. They sold it and there was a big chunk of money left off. She agreed to pay that so that, again, your credit would not be destroyed. So far, is that correct? You agreed to pay that?
I agreed to pay that with the judge, yes, but she was supposed to have been released from all
But she wasn't. She had to co-sign for you. And as it turned out, you again did not pay that judgment, so that they contacted the plaintiff. Plaintiff ultimately worked out a resolution with them for less money than they wanted, and you paid on her car loan how much?
$2,200.
So you paid $2,200 on the balance of what she owed on the car. Yes. And during this same time period, she ran into some additional difficulty. She didn't have money for utilities, and you gave her some additional money.
Yes.
How much?
It was $80 for electric and $126.95 for the gas.
And you acknowledge she gave you that money?
Yes, but it wasn't a loan. She gave it to me.
Oh, she's tripping. She's tripping.
Just a second. Don't speak. 2, 3, 4. Okay. That's $24.06 and change.
Exactly.
Okay,
however, I did include the certified mail to the attorneys when I sent the check, so I put the $3.
Okay. Your defense to this entire action, Ms. Stewart, is that there was an agreement that you would pay off this debt to the plaintiff by braiding her children's hair.
Right. That I've been doing throughout the years.
Okay. So I want you to tell me about that agreement.
The agreement, she told me that she had to pay the payment back, and that that's what she wound up being stuck with having to do, and that I owed her, and that we would make the arrangements by me braiding the girl's hair and hers. When I met her, she didn't even have any hair, and the kids' hair was in bad condition. But throughout the years, in the course of time,
How many years did you braid their hair? Starting when?
94, 95.
So is what you're telling me that she agreed to co-sign for this car loan and she paid off this loan for you because from the time that you were braiding her children's hair, even before you bought the car, in 95, you were braiding her hair and weren't charging her?
No, I was charging her up until that point.
Up until what point?
Up until after I fell delinquent in my car payment.
Until what year?
97, 98, somewhere up in there.
Did you ever have an agreement, Miss Williams, with Miss Stewart, that she could work off this debt she owed you by braiding your children's hair?
No, actually, the debt that she was supposed to work off by braiding the children's hair was for an exercise machine that I loaned her, which got misplaced somehow.
That I've been paid for.
And it was $300. Exactly, but the machine that that was the only thing that we ever bartered hair for. That's because this costs nothing. This was, as far as I was concerned, an inanimate object. Okay, you lose it, you can do the hair for it, that's fine. But when you put out cash money that could go into my children's mouths, that's a lot different.
The aggravation that you caused her should have caused you to braid her children's hair for nothing. Just the aggravation. Twice, she was subject to legal process. She had to take 20. What kind of work do you do for
Which
a
I
living?
voluntarily went to court with her on to help
Just a
release
second.
her
This is
from
your
it.
day. What do you mean you voluntarily went with her? You're
I didn't
supposed
have
to
go.
voluntarily
I
go with
just
her.
had it stuck on my credit, and that was it.
No, it's also stuck on her credit.
And that's why I went.
You don't get it. What kind of work do you do for a living?
I'm just a homemaker.
Goodness gracious me. Miss Stewart, when somebody extends a helping hand to you, you're supposed to do the right thing. You're not supposed to do the wrong thing.
And that's what I did, Your Honor.
You
by
didn't
going to
do
court with her.
By going to court with her, this was not her debt, it was your debt.
Yeah, but they was talking about taking her house back. Taking her house from her then.
You should have braided her children's hair until they were receiving Social Security for all the trouble you caused her.
I don't
They were
owe
threatening to take her house away because she co-signed a car for you that you didn't pay for, and you think it was nice of you to go to court with her? Yes. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,409, which includes the certified mail. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. This is case number 4. This is case number 393 on the calendar, the matter Levens versus Radigan. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. Levens, you rented a room in the defendant's home, and it is your claim that she falsely accused you at some point of assault, resulting in your arrest. You had to retain an attorney. All the charges were subsequently dismissed, and you want the defendant to pay for all of your out-of-pocket expenses as a result of that arrest, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And it is the defendant's position that you did, in fact, assault her, and that your lawsuit is frivolous, correct?
Yes.
When did you begin your tenancy with the defendant?
December 1st of 1999.
And when did the altercation happen that resulted in your leaving?
February 17th of 2000.
So you lived there a very short time, 2 months.
Yes, Your Honor.
Were there any other tenants in the house?
Yes. As a matter of fact, during the month of December, she went through about 3 in the other room, and then there was one that had been there the whole time in the dining room, which had been converted into a bedroom.
So how many tenants in total? December, January, and February?
There were 3.
And what was your rent?
Well, she lowered it a couple of different times. Started off wanted $500, ended up $400, then she lowered it down to $350 because she wanted me to. She didn't want me to move out. I gave her notice, and she said it was hard to find good roommates, and she kind of desperate. It almost seemed.
I gather from the complaint that Ms. Radigan, you were putting new carpet in or having the carpets cleaned in the house. What day was that?
That was February the 17th.
Tell me what happened on the 17th of February.
I was about 7:30 a.m. I was sleeping. I worked nights, and I'd probably been asleep for a couple hours. She came, knocked on the door, said, we're going to have the rooms cleaned today. Could she come in and move stuff out from the middle of the room? I said, okay. And she started to do that, and she said, you got to get up. And I said, well, my room really doesn't need it. I was kind of waking up, and I said, my room's fine. She said, no, we're doing the whole house. And I said, well, my room doesn't need it. And I was still kind of sleepy. And I said, well, do my room last. I said, it doesn't really need it. And she left. And then she came, a little time later, came barging in again and said, you're out of here. She said, that's it. You have to move out today. John and the boys are coming. They're moving you out. And all your stuff's going to be in the street. And, and she grabbed my chair and started moving my stuff out.
Moving what stuff out?
The chair was what she was moving out.
She was taking the chair out.
Like to demonstrate she was going to take everything out, and by that day, all my stuff would be in the street, and I'm out of there.
That's not true.
Just a minute, I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond. What happened next?
I grabbed my cell phone, I went out to the driveway, and I called the police.
At any time, did you put your hands on the defendant?
No, Your Honor.
When she picked up your chair, did you put your hand on her to stop her?
No, she just kind of plowed right on out the front, out my bedroom door, out into the living room.
So you went outside and you called the police?
Yes.
Do you have a police report?
Yes.
I'd like to see it, please. Now, the police ultimately arrived, is that right?
Yes.
When they arrived, what happened?
I told them that she was threatening to move my stuff out into the street, and that I was out of there today, and she's got some guys coming over, they're going to move me out, and I was afraid to leave, and that I'd paid rent, and I told them then, I said, I'm going to move at the end of the month, though.
So what happened?
Then they went inside and talked to her. A few minutes later, then they came out and asked me if I had touched her. I said, no. She said, well, she's claiming assault. And they went back in, talked to the roommate. The roommate said he didn't see any.
Which roommate?
There's one that was right down the hall from me, straight across.
Don't tell me what the roommate said unless the roommate's here.
Okay. They said there was no assault, nothing happened. They said, leave told her to leave me alone, said leave each other alone. He's leaving at the end of the month, and they left.
What happened next?
2 days later, I got at work. Deputy sheriff came and had a restraining order, said I couldn't go home.
Now I'll hear you.
Okay, on February the 15th, I let Jimmy Lee know that I was going to be having the carpets cleaned. And he said, that's fine. And I told him, you'd have to have everything off the floor so that they can just come in and do the carpet. So the day after that, I reminded him that night before he went to work, they are coming, so, have your stuff up. And the next morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, the carpet people were going to be there at 8:30. I went in there, I knocked on his door, and I told him, the carpet people will be here in 30 minutes. And he just started cursing at me, telling me that he wasn't getting up and that his carpet is not going to get cleaned. So then what happened is I asked him, I said, this door is still shut. I asked him, is it okay? Can I just come in and pick the stuff off the floor? He said, fine. So I went in, I got the chair, desk chair, rolled it out into the hallway right there, already out of his room. He came back in back of me. I didn't even know he got up. He came back in the back of me. He pulled me around by my arm. He took me, violently shook me, and threw me onto the chair. And he proceeded to go ahead and do whatever, hit me or whatever. And my other roommate, his room was right there, and I called out to him, and he came and had to remove him off of me.
Is that person here?
No, ma'am.
Then the police arrived, and you told the police your story. Is that right?
Yes, I called the police.
Well, so did he.
Mm-hmm.
The police arrived, and each of you were told to leave each other alone, and he advised police, who in turn advised you, that he would be moving out at the end of the month. Is that right?
No.
They didn't tell you that he would be moving out at the end of the month?
No, he did
not. Did he
not.
tell you that he would be moving out at the end of the month?
No, he didn't.
He didn't. But you certainly wanted him out of the house.
Exactly.
He assaulted her.
Several days later, you went back to the police. Is that right?
Right.
And you went to the police and said, I want to file assault charges against him.
Mm-hmm. I filed a report.
You said, I want to file, I've read the report.
Okay,
You said,
yeah.
I want to file assault charges against him. Is that right?
Yes.
And you told the police another version of what happened. You said that the first officer had taken an incomplete version.
Correct.
And you were very careful this time to go over all of the details precisely. Is that correct?
Yes, I was
to make
very
sure
distraught.
that this officer got all of the facts straight.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And it was clear at that time, that several days later, that you wanted the plaintiff out of the house. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you make an attempt to go to housing court to have him evicted?
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't. You went to the police to get a restraining order to put him out of the house. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me tell you, Miss Radigan, the first officer that you spoke to reports no injury. Officer said that he spoke to a witness, this is in his police report, who did not see any physical interaction, but did hear arguing. You stated that the plaintiff grabbed her with both hands and pushed her out of the room.
No.
That, I'm telling you what the police officer stated in quotes that you told him. He grabbed you with both hands and pushed you out of his room. That's what you told.
Oh, I was very distraught at
Hey,
the
listen,
time.
Miss Radigan. Distraught. Then, after a few days, when you realize that nothing's going to happen, you go back to the police and insist on filing another report of assault, the same assault that allegedly happened on the 17th. And let me tell you what you told the officer at that time. You say, grabbed her by both arms and pushed me down on the floor. Now, that was the time when you went to the police and you wanted to make very, very sure that you got it 100% right. Then you filed this case today, in which you swore in your deposition, he came up behind me, grabbed my arm, and turned me around and shook me really hard. Then, in the story that you tell me now, 2 seconds ago, you say, he came up from behind, he grabbed you, and he threw you down in a chair.
No, I said he shook me.
Yo, you just told me he shook you and he threw you down in a chair.
Exactly. I mean,
The question that I have to resolve, Miss Radigan, is whether you abuse the process of the courts and the justice system in an attempt to see to it that he was evicted from your house very quickly, because you probably, if you rent rooms, know how hard it is to get out a tenant, since he had paid his February rent. Even if you try to get him evicted sometime in the middle of February, he's not going to get out for months if he doesn't want to go. You wanted him out. You insisted upon filing assault charges against him. You were not injured in any way, and you abused process. Now, let me see the certificate of disposition with this assault case. I know what you did, and you know what you did. How much did you actually pay this attorney, sir?
$5,000.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Everything he said was a lie, every bit of it.
Sherry uses the judicial system to get her way.
The only way I could get him out was to get a protective order.
Sherry is a very controlling person, and when she doesn't get her way, she throws a fit in the one way that she knows, and claiming that she was hurt.
Yeah, this is case number 402 on the calendar in the matter of Hickey versus Deeks. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
Mr. and Mrs. Hickey, the defendant's son and your son were playing with BB guns. According to your complaint, the defendant's son shot your son in the mouth with a BB gun, causing his tooth to fall out. The dental bills for that amount to some $3,800, and you want the defendant and his father to be responsible for those bills. Which of the boys was shot in the mouth?
Jacob, the oldest one.
You. The defendant's position is that despite the fact that immediately after this incident he signed a note indicating he would be responsible for the bills, he signed that under some duress, and that he immediately recanted by sending you another letter indicating he would not pay for all the bills, and that as a matter of fact his son was also shot with a BB, albeit in his rear end. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. When did this incident happen with the BB guns? And would you stand up here, sir? When did it happen?
November 19th of 2001.
Where did it happen?
In my backyard. It's on the side of the house is actually where he got shot.
Were you at home at the time?
No.
Whose BB guns were they?
We owned one, and Mike owned the other.
When did you buy your son a BB gun?
It was my mother's, and she gave it to my son for a present.
Why?
He just used it to, he had targets that he'd use to shoot and shoot signs, and it actually was my smallest son's gun, Eric's gun.
That's pretty stupid.
Oh, we have targets and we shoot all the time.
Well, so?
Plus we're hunters and stuff like that.
Sir, what is your first name?
Jacob.
Jacob, did you shoot the defendant with the BB gun and it hit him in the behind?
Yes, but it was by accident. I
don't care whether it was by accident or on purpose. I assume that you wouldn't do anything on purpose to hit him with the gun. Is that right?
Yeah.
You were playing around.
Yeah.
And you shot him in the behind.
Yeah, by accident.
Was that before or after he shot you in the face?
Before.
Was it immediately before?
No, it was like about 5 or 10 minutes before.
So when you shot him in the behind, did he say anything to you?
No, he just like, he didn't mind. He like 5 or 10 minutes after, we were all pals.
You were all pals. So he was friendly to you after you shot him in the behind. And it was an accident.
Yes.
Now, I want you to tell me how it came about that you got shot in the face.
Well, me and Mike were just like, just hanging around, and I went to talk to my little brother.
Don't start from the beginning.
Okay.
We're not going back to Noah's Ark. Okay. You shot him in the behind by accident. Yes. Then you were playing around for another 10 minutes.
Yes.
Immediately before you got shot in the mouth, what were you doing?
Before I got shot in the chest, I was hiding behind this board, and I put down the BB gun.
What were you hiding behind the board for?
To hide from getting shot, because I couldn't run to my house. I was afraid of.
Well, was he aiming at you?
Yes.
Your Honor.
Shh.
Excuse me.
He was aiming at you?
Yes.
What did you say to him when he was aiming at you?
I yelled stop like at least maybe 5 or 10 times.
Did he say why he was aiming at you?
No.
Were you playing at this time?
No.
What were you doing? You were being serious?
Yes, he was being serious. I think he was trying to either get back at me for accidentally shooting him.
When you say you accidentally shot him and you hit his body,
yeah.
Where were you aiming?
At the ground. It ricocheted off the ground and hit him.
That's not a target.
No.
Sir, I'm not speaking to you unless you were home, right? So you were shooting around his feet?
Yeah, it was like he was maybe a few inches from the ground to where I was pointing the gun at.
But he had turned around. His back was towards you, sir,
yes.
Because if you hit him in the behind, that means that he was moving away from you.
Yes, I think he was looking at his gun. I think he was loading his gun with bullets.
Just a second. So he was loading his gun with bullets, and you shot
Yeah, well, I was checking the safety, and I pulled the trigger, and the safety wasn't on the way in, and it ricochets off the ground and hits him.
All right. Now, Mr. Deeks, I want you to tell me how it came about, sir, that you hit him in the mouth with a BB.
Okay. That day, the bus missed us right off the bat, so we stayed at his house, and we were, like, playing video games. We ordered a pizza, and so then about half an hour later, after we watched a movie, we went out in his backyard and started shooting at trees and stuff with his BB gun. And then he said, let's go down and get my BB gun. So we walked down to my house, and on the way down to my house, that's when he shot me, when we were walking and I was walking in front of him. So it hurt, and so I just got up and we kept walking to my house, and we got my pellets because we were like shooting at birds and stuff. So then we walked back to his house, and he said, let's play one pump war, which is you pump the gun one time and you shoot at each other. And we were at least 100 feet away from each other, like a big field. And
Just a minute, does one pump war sound familiar to you, sir?
No, I never said that.
Go ahead.
And then he started shooting at me, and Eric was with me by the road, and pellets were like flying by our heads and everything, and Eric said, let me shoot the gun. So I said,
That's
okay.
a lie.
And I let Eric use the gun, and Eric shot the gun and shot Jake. Like the second shot he shot, it hit Jake. And I tried to cover for his brother and say that I was the one that shot it, and he repeated, no, that was my brother, and you didn't shoot it. So, and then he was yelling at his brother. So then he immediately after that started shooting back at us and almost hit Eric. So I told Eric, go away before you get hit. So then he was hiding behind boards with one of my friends, Robbie, and I couldn't see anything, so I just took a shot, and all of a sudden I walk up there and he's out in the middle of the yard, and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, you shot me in my face. And I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And then he said I did it on purpose, and there's no way I could shoot it with a $30 BB gun 100 feet away.
And for him to shoot me in my tooth, he would have to directly aim at my face.
Your Honor, Eric can tell you, because he was there through the whole thing, he can tell you what happened, too.
Mm-hmm.
He shot my little brother, too, in the head.
And so
You shot him!
No, he...
You shot
You
your own brother.
Shh. Neither of you were there. You shot him. The first person who got hit with a BB was him. Put your hand down. Listen, when parents permit their children to have instruments that can cause damage to each other, they make a big mistake, and then they come and they cry. Somebody, first of all, should have been home in your house to ensure the fact that if your son missed the school bus, somebody drove him to school so that he wasn't home all day being unsupervised. Did your younger son miss the school bus too?
No.
Did not, so he went to school that day.
That's right.
So that they were playing around all day with these BB guns until Eric came home. Is that right?
That's right.
And then Eric was out in the field with them as well. Is that right, Eric? Stand up here. Is that right, young man? You were out there too?
Yes.
Did you ever have a BB gun in your hand?
No.
You never held a BB gun? Just your brother and his friend?
Yep.
Now I want you to point someplace in this room. Let's say your brother was standing where I'm sitting at the time that he got hit in the face. I want you to point someplace in the room and show me where this young man was standing when he shot him in the face. Look around the room, and if you tell me that there's no place in the room, that's fine too. Look all around the room.
Where was he standing, Eric? Where was Mike standing when he shot Jacob? How far?
Nowhere.
What?
Nowhere in this room.
Nowhere in this room, so it was further. Was it twice as far? 3 times as far?
3 times.
3 times as far as anywhere in this room. Is that right?
Yep.
Sit down, Eric.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 15-year-old Jacob Hickey says neighbor 13-year-old Mike Deeks shot him in the mouth with a BB gun. Mike says Jacob shot him in the behind.
So you believe, Mr. and Mrs. Hickey, that the defendant should be totally responsible for any injuries caused to your son?
Yes.
Wrong. Wrong. You are suggesting that Mr. Deeks purposely, from 3 times the distance of this courtroom, aimed and shot at your son successfully, getting him in the tooth.
I don't know if Eric understood that question.
It wasn't that far.
Just a second. You weren't there, and that's what he said.
Well, I know where he said he was.
Just a second. You weren't there, and that's what he said.
He's on probation for violence in the first place, so he is susceptible to
That
this
has
stuff.
nothing to do with this case.
Your Honor,
Your Honor.
I'm
In
off
fact,
probation.
he used that to bribe me into signing the note in the first place.
All
I
right,
would
now,
pay the bill.
let's get to the note.
You begged us not to call
Hey,
the cops.
Mr. Hickey, Mr. Hickey,
Okay, ma'am.
listen to me, sir. But for the fact that your son had a BB gun that day, you wouldn't be here today.
True.
Now, there came a time, according to what I've read in these papers, that the defendant, Mr. Deeks, signed a note.
Mm-hmm.
Can I see the note, please?
Sure.
Now, I'd like you to tell me the circumstances of this note. When was it written?
It was written that evening that it happened.
Did you go to his house, or did he come to your
Brian
house?
did. Brian went to his house.
You went to his house?
Yes.
What did you say to him when you went to his house?
He was asking me not to call the cops because his son was on probation for breaking in and entering in the house
Yes.
in my neighborhood.
Yes.
And
Just talk to me.
right. So I said, I don't have a problem with not calling the cops, but I said, I need the medical bills to be paid for. I said, we're not, we don't have a ton of money to pay for this stuff. And he agreed.
Okay. And give me your version of what Mr. Hickey said to you when he came over.
Basically...
No, not basically. What did he say to you, Mr.
Okay,
Deeks?
he said that Michael had instigated the shooting, that Michael had shot his son. So I signed
did
the
he say?
note. Of course, I was scared for my son. I was
No.
scared for his son.
What did he say to you, sir, with regard to calling the police?
He said...
Now, what did he say
said
to
if
you?
I would agree to pay all the medical bills and to pay pain and suffering for his son, then he would not call the police.
All right, and then there came a time where you had second thoughts. You had an opportunity to speak to your son.
Yes, ma'am.
You say that you wrote him a letter.
Yes, I have that here.
Can I see the letter that you wrote to him? I want to see when you wrote the letter to him. Mr. Hickey, once you received this letter, you were advised that the defendant did not intend to pay for the entire dental bill for your son, but thought it was only reasonable that he should pay for half. Did you go to the police?
That night I called the police.
And I had the report.
Because also one thing, I always taught my boys to keep their guns down because that's proper gun safety when you're not firing your gun to keep it pointed away and down. And also, Mike was the one that instigated the shooting on my son. My son did not shoot back at him. Okay, as far as
You weren't there, and you don't know. Just understand this, Mr. Hickey. Despite the fact that you've given your son all kinds of lessons on gun safety, the first person that was hit was the defendant.
Right.
Just a second, by your son. Now, I understand from this letter, Mr. Deeks, that you took some photographs
Yes, ma'am.
of the injury to your son behind. I'd like to see them.
He doesn't want you to, but...
Well, that's too, that comes under the cat.
That was through blue jeans and boxer shorts.
Getting a two-shot out is a lot worse than getting shot in the butt.
So?
And a lot worse damage.
So? They're two stupid kids. He started it, and he finished it better. I think both of them were probably accidents.
Jake, his was not an accident.
Well, you may say it's
Also-
not. Yeah, can I see the dental bills, please? You folks just don't get it.
Do you want the police report?
I don't care about the police report. The police did not arrest him for that. You know why the police didn't arrest him for that? You want to know why? Because your son shot him first. That's why.
Miss Judy, also, he shot my son 4 times, shot my little son 3 times,
can tell you that.
and shot my dog 2 or 3 times also.
Purposely.
Purposely.
Did you take the BB gun away from your son?
That was the same day.
Yes, and plus I got his BB gun and destroyed it the same day.
And they
this
both
happened,
have
too.
this gun still
Your Honor,
in their possession.
his little son and a kid named Sean were walking down the street with my BB gun like a month later, and with holding a pigeon in their hand. And I talked to Josh, his littlest son, and Josh
Don't tell me
said,
what Josh told you. I think that you're both way out of line, and I think that, listen to me, I think that the defendant is being more than reasonable with you when he says to you, I believe that I should be responsible for half of the dental bills and that you should be responsible for half of the dental bills for your son. And if you don't think so, then I'm not going to spend any more of my very valuable time trying to convince you. Now, these 2 boys were engaged in play. There is no indication that the defendant was a marksman, any more than your son being a marksman. You 3 parents,
What about him
both
shooting
very
my other
fool.
kids? I mean-
I'm not interested in him shooting your other kids. All I know is I have photographs that the first person who was injured as a result of this BB play was him.
It shows he intentionally shot my other kids.
No, it doesn't.
And they were not armed. So,
You know,
okay?
Get over it.
We know where his heart...
Get over it. Get over it. You're being thick. You allowed your children to have weapons that could cause injury, both of you. Therefore, you are both responsible, especially since, put your hand down and get your hand out of your pocket, especially since your son, whether by accident or on purpose, and it certainly wasn't by accident because he aimed at the ground as the defendant was walking away. He didn't aim in the air. He aimed, according to his own statement, at the ground at his feet, and it ricocheted. Now, that's his statement. That's not teaching him how to handle a gun. You handle a gun, you want to shoot at targets. According to you, they only shoot at targets. That's not a target. The back of his feet isn't a target.
Your Honor,
Don't speak. He acted stupid. He was stupid. You were all stupid for not making sure that your sons were in school that day. What?
Well, first off, with my youngest boy, I mean, they catch the bus at 7, he catches at 6:30. I was still home. So apparently, we're not stupid or neglected far as parents because they must have snuck off in the woods on their own before we even left.
You're supposed to know where your children are. Then if they both snuck off, they were doing the wrong thing. Both of them. And the first one to get a gun was your son, because then they walked back to his house to get his, right?
Yes.
So now let me see the dental bills.
He did pay me $59 already.
It's $160.
No, you gave me $59 cash.
I gave you $60 and a $100 check.
Yeah, that was for pain and suffering for Jacob.
Don't give me pain and suffering.
Well, that's what he did.
Well, I don't know whether he gave you money for pain and suffering. I'm not giving any money for pain and suffering. $159 he gave you so far towards the dental bills.
Your Honor.
Okay.
Don't speak.
59.
Your father's going to get fed up with taking care of your nasty business, sir. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, young Mr. Deeks, you think your father had to spend any money the first time you got into trouble?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you feel badly?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were on probation?
Yes, when this incident happened.
You were on probation?
Yes.
Part of your probation that you're supposed to be in school every day?
No, ma'am.
No? Oh. You don't think that the judge, while you were on probation, had the probation officer look into whether or not you were in school doing the right thing? Of course. And you weren't in school, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the first time you were in trouble?
No, ma'am.
How old are you?
13.
It's the first time he's ever in trouble with the law or anything like that, if that's what you're asking.
Should have taken away his BB gun at that time, Mr. Deeks. That would have been the first thing that I would have done.
I agree there.
Taken away that, his Nintendo, his video games, his television privileges.
That's why
everything
I gave the gun
except
to
bread
Mr.
and water.
Hickey.
Now, this estimate was December 27th, 2001. The total bill was $1,865. Was that surgery performed?
Not yet. No, he's got to wait till he's full grown, so they will not perform the surgery until he stops growing.
And was the tooth totally knocked out?
I have a picture if you want to. If you like
I do.
To see it.
Okay. Now, after the money he paid you, the total amount of the bills as projected by the dentist, $3,690.
Yes, ma'am.
And I believe that he is responsible for half of that, which is $1,845. And that's what I'm giving you as a judgment. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,845. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah, this is case.
হ্যালো ফ্রেন্ডস, ওয়েলকাম ব্যাক টু মাই চ্যানেল। কেমন আছো তোমরা সবাই? আশা করি সবাই খুব ভালো আছো, আর আমিও খুব ভালো আছি। তো আজকে আমি তোমাদের আরও একটা রিকোয়েস্ট ভিডিও নিয়ে চলে এসেছি। তোমরা অনেকে জানতে চেয়েছো আমার যে স্কিন ট্রান্সফরমেশনের শর্টসগুলোতে যে আমি কি ফেস ওয়াশ ইউজ করেছি আমার পিম্পলগুলো দূর করার জন্য। তো যেটা খুবই কমন, এটা তোমরা অনেকেই জানতে চাইবে, এটাই সাধারণ ব্যাপার, যেহেতু অনেকটাই কিন্তু মারাত্মক হয়েছিল আমার ফেসের অবস্থা। তো যাই হোক, সেজন্য আজকে আমি তোমাদের সঙ্গে যে ফেস ওয়াশটা আমি ইউজ করেছি ব্রণ দূর করার জন্য সেটা নিয়ে কথা বলতে চলে এসেছি। তো দেখো, এই যে এই ফেস ওয়াশটা আমি ইউজ করেছি, তো দেখো এখানে কিন্তু ভালো মতো ঠিক বোঝা যাচ্ছে না। আচ্ছা দেখি, হ্যাঁ এখন বোঝা যাচ্ছে একটুখানি। তো এটার নাম হচ্ছে কি সিরাপি অ্যাকনে ফোমিং ক্রিম ক্লিনজার, যেটা হচ্ছে 4% বেনজল পারঅক্সাইড আছে। আর বেনজল পারঅক্সাইড তো জানোই বেসিক্যালি অ্যাকনির উপরে ট্রিটমেন্ট করতে সাহায্য করে। তো তোমরা যদি এটা সম্পর্কে বিস্তারিত জানতে চাও তোমরা হচ্ছে কি করবে, গুগলে একটু সার্চ করবে, নামটা দেখবে এটা সমস্ত রিভিউ পেয়ে যাবে ইউটিউব ভিডিওতে। আর গুগলে এটা সম্পর্কে যাবতীয় সমস্ত ইনফরমেশন তোমরা পেয়ে যাবে। তো যাই হোক, এখন আমি তোমাদেরকে জাস্ট বেসিক একটা ধারণা দিচ্ছি। তো হচ্ছে কি এটা মূলত তোমাদের স্কিনের পিম্পল তো দূর করে, সেই সঙ্গে অনেকে দেখবে যে মানে স্কিনের মধ্যে ছোটো ছোটো কিছু বাম্পস থাকে, ওগুলোকে বলা হচ্ছে ব্ল্যাক হেডস আর কি, ব্ল্যাক হেডস বা হোয়াইট হেডস। মানে যাদেরগুলো সাদা থাকে তাদেরগুলোকে হোয়াইট হেডস বলে, আর যাদেরগুলো কালো থাকে তাদেরগুলো তো ব্ল্যাক হেডস বলে। তো ওইগুলো তোমাদের স্কিন থেকে দূর করতে সাহায্য করে। তো ব্ল্যাক হেডসগুলো বা হোয়াইট হেডসগুলো যদি থাকে তো দেখা যাবে যে একটা সময় গিয়ে সেগুলো ব্রণের আকার ধারণ করতেছে, এমন অবস্থা হয়ে যায়। তো তোমরা চেষ্টা করবে সেজন্য ব্ল্যাক হেড যেন স্কিনের মধ্যে না হয় ওইদিকে একটু খেয়াল রাখবে, মানে ব্ল্যাক হেডস না হওয়ার যতগুলো উপায় আছে ওইগুলো একটু ফলো করার চেষ্টা করবে, ঠিক আছে? তো যাই হোক, এটা তোমাদের স্কিনে পিম্পলসও দূর করে, সেই সঙ্গে ব্ল্যাক হেডস হোয়াইট হেডস দূর করে, এবং কি তোমাদের স্কিনে দাগ টাকাও কিন্তু এটা কমাতে সাহায্য করে। কারণ এটাতে আরও অনেক ভালো ভালো ইনগ্রিডিয়েন্ট আছে। তার মধ্যে হচ্ছে কি 3 এসেনশিয়াল সিনামাইডস আছে, হাইলোরনিক অ্যাসিড আছে, নায়াসিনামাইড আছে, তারপরে আরও অনেক অনেক ভালো ভালো ইনগ্রিডিয়েন্ট আছে। তোমরা এটা সার্চ করলে তোমরা দেখতে পারবে, এই আর কি ব্যাপার। তো যাই হোক, এখন এটা তো তোমরা উপর থেকে ইউজ করবে, ঠিক আছে, বাট তোমাদেরকে কিন্তু মানে হেলথের উপরে একটু নজর দিতে হবে, একটু ভালো হচ্ছে খাওয়া দাওয়া করতে হবে। তো সেটাকে কি আমি একটু বলে দিচ্ছি তোমাদেরকে, এটা সম্পর্কে আর বেশি বলার দরকার নেই, জাস্ট আমি তোমাদেরকে এটার ভিতরটা দেখিয়ে দিচ্ছি। এই যে দেখো, এটা হচ্ছে এই ফেস ওয়াশ টিউব অলরেডি খালি, কারণ আমি তো ইউজ করে ফেলেছি, ভিতরে পানি আছে। তো যাই হোক, এইটা হচ্ছে এটার ফুল লুক। এটা মোটামুটি যায় তোমার 1 মাসের মতো যাবে এটা। তো তোমরা কিন্তু ফেস ওয়াশ ব্যবহার করার পাশাপাশি তোমরা পানিটা একটু বেশি খাবে, ধরো দিনে 16-17 লিটার খাওয়ার চেষ্টা করবে, না 16-17 লিটার না, সরি 16-17 গ্লাস খাওয়ার চেষ্টা করবে, অন্তত 4 থেকে 5 লিটার আর কি। অ্যান্ড হচ্ছে একটু ভালো ঘুমাবে, মানে টেনশন ফ্রি থাকবে, ঘুমাবে। আর খাওয়া দাওয়ার প্রতি একটু বিশেষ নজর দিবে। সেটা হচ্ছে কি চিনি জাতীয় কোনো খাবার খেতে পারবে না, না মানে না, ঠিক আছে? কোনো ধরো চিনি মেশানো কোনো খাবার, এমন না যে ডিরেক্ট তুমি চিনি খাচ্ছ না বা তুমি মিষ্টি জাতীয় খাবার পছন্দ করো না, কিন্তু হচ্ছে কি তুমি চিনি দিয়ে তৈরি খাবার অনেক খাচ্ছ, এটা কিন্তু করা যাবে না, ঠিক আছে? টোটালি মানে তোমার চিনি জাতীয় যত খাবার আছে, চিনি দিয়ে তৈরি করা সমস্ত খাবার তোমাকে অ্যাভয়েড করতে হবে। হতে পারে সেটাতে অল্প কিছু চিনি আছে, বাট সেটা তোমাকে অ্যাভয়েড করতে হবে, ঠিক আছে? তো এই হচ্ছে ব্যাপার। তো এরপরে হচ্ছে তোমরা হেলদি ফুড খাওয়ার চেষ্টা করবে অবশ্যই, যেটা হচ্ছে শাকসবজি, ফলমূল একটু বেশি খাওয়ার চেষ্টা করবে। আর তার পাশাপাশি হচ্ছে তোমরা ঘুমটা ভালো মতো যাবে, বললামই তো। এরপরে কি, আচ্ছা, মুখটাকে যতটা পড়বে একটু ক্লিন রাখার চেষ্টা করবে, মানে বেশি একটা ধুলোবালু থেকে রক্ষা পায় ওইটার দিকে একটু খেয়াল রাখবে। এই ছোটোখাটো টিপসগুলো মেনে চললেই হবে। আর বললাম তো অন্তত 8 থেকে 9 ঘন্টা ঘুমাবে, আর ঘুমটা যেন শুধু রাতেই হয়, দিনের ঘুম কিন্তু অ্যাড করলে হবে না ওই টাইমের মধ্যে, জাস্ট রাতের ঘুমটাই কিন্তু তোমাদেরকে প্রপারলি যেতে হবে, কারণ রাতের ঘুমটা তোমার স্কিনটাকে হিল করতে সাহায্য করে। তো এই হচ্ছে ব্যাপারে ছোটোখাটো টিপসগুলো মেনে চলবে। আর যে ক্লিনজারটা নিয়ে বললাম, এই ক্লিনজারটা তোমরা গুগলে সার্চ করে দেখবে, দেন হচ্ছে তোমাদের সমস্ত প্রশ্নের অ্যান্সার পেয়ে যাবে। কোন ফেজ থেকে কিনলে ভালো হবে সেটাও তোমরা দেখে নিবে, কারণ এখন কিন্তু অনেক ফেজে স্ক্যাম করে। তো আমাকে যদি বলো যে আমি বলতে পারতাম, এখন কিন্তু সেটা প্রমোট হয়ে যেত, বাট তোমরা অনেকেই বললো যে প্রমোট করি, সেই জন্য আমি বলি নাই। তোমরা যদি জানতে চাও আমাকে কমেন্ট করো, আমি তোমাদেরকে সেখানে ওই পেজের লিঙ্কটা বা লিঙ্কটা দেওয়া যাবে না, ওই পেজের নামটা আমি তোমাদেরকে মেনশন করে দিব, তাহলে হবে। তো যাই হোক, আজকে ভিডিও এতটুকুই, দেখবো নেক্সট ভিডিওতে। সো টাটা, বাই বাই।